In ancient times, daughters of noble families did not learn to dance. But at the age of 5, I begged my mother to hire a teacher to teach me, because I knew that men can never resist a graceful and supple female body. Therefore, I bathed in milk every single day. After several years, I finally cultivated a complexion as radiant as peach blossoms, and a perfectly curved figure. I was eventually betrothed to Prince Zhao by imperial decree. On our wedding night, when Prince Zhao gazed at my graceful, slender waist and couldn't look away, I knew that I had succeeded. Yes, I have been reincarnated. In my past life, I was also betrothed to Prince Zhao in this very year. After the wedding, I strictly observed all etiquette, and served my mother-in-law with a peaceful heart. I was the most virtuous and obedient of all the princesses. Unfortunately, my docility, good behavior, and understanding didn't earn my husband's love. They only brought his coldness and indifference. The affection my mother-in-law showed me was also fake. The reason she chose me as the Princess of Zhao was simply because she valued my father's reputation as a clean and honest official in the court. To dispel the emperor's suspicion of Prince Zhao, once I had no more utility, I would be kicked aside. In the end, Prince Zhao ascended the throne as emperor, but he conferred the title of empress upon Su Qingyao, while I, simply because I had given birth to 2 children, was barely granted the title of consort Xian. Even more ridiculous was that he only consummated the marriage with me under the influence of an aphrodisiac. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been willing to touch me for his entire life, failing to gain my husband's love, and suffering his neglect and loathing. My life in the Prince Zhao's manor was not easy. I thought the heavens were kind to me. Since I became pregnant after just that one time, I thought that with a child, my husband would connect with me for the sake of the child, or at least grow closer to me. But I was wrong again. The birth of the children made him loathe me even more. Worse than the disharmonious relationship between us, the 2 children also began to despise me, and were unwilling to even be close to their own mother. My greatest regret was never being able to raise those 2 children well. In the end, I died at the age of only 35 from a broken heart. Perhaps the heavens took pity on me, and let me be reborn back to the age of 5. For 10 years, I never left my home, focusing on refining and remodeling myself, waiting for the emperor's betrothal decree to arrive. Since Xiaoqi is destined to become the most noble and powerful man in the world, I will not give up the power handed to me. Similarly, I will use his influence to become the most noble woman in the world. In this life, I will not give it up again. Nor will I give Su Qingyao another chance. No matter what means I have to use, I will rise and become the mother of the nation. Today's Xingjin city is exceptionally lively. Drums and gongs resound in the streets. By imperial decree, Lu Yingyan, the second daughter of Lu Jiadi, is marrying Prince Zhao, Xiaoqi. Officials are busy handling the wedding arrangements. The massive wedding procession arrives at the Lu residence. The grandeur of the scene is truly unparalleled. Dressed in my finest attire, I sit in the royal wedding sedan. From now on, I am a daughter-in-law of the imperial family. I am the legitimate princess of Zhao, the future crown princess, and I will firmly hold on to the status of the empress to Emperor Xuanzong. 10 miles of red dowry, a dazzling array of treasures. The grand wedding procession stretches out like a dragon, heading towards the Prince Zhao's manor. Pedestrians on the road stop to watch, all sighing at the majesty and grandeur. I think even if Xiaoqi is unwilling to marry me, today he will still wear the groom's robes and wait obediently at the gate of the manor to welcome me. The empress will come to witness and offer her blessings. In this life, I will absolutely not be humble or wait for death. I only know that if one doesn't look out for oneself, the heavens will destroy them. I don't know how much time passed until the master of ceremonies called out, "Will the prince please kick the sedan door?" This immediately pulled my thoughts back to the present. I instantly straightened my back. The phoenix crown, inlaid with gold and jade, made my neck ache. But I had to endure it. I have always been steady and dignified. Nanny Wang, who came from the palace, had taught me the rules in the manor for another month. Everyone repeatedly cautioned me not to make any mistakes on the wedding day. I merely nodded obediently. The door was opened. The red silk ribbon was placed in my hand. Immediately after, a fair hand with distinct fingers reached in. My jade-like fingers lightly brushed against it, and I felt his fingertips were ice cold. His aura also gave me a cold sense of detachment, as if warning others to keep away. In my previous life, immersed in joy, I hadn't noticed at all. Now I finally understand it wasn't because he was cold-blooded, but a signal that his body instinctively resisted my touch. However, I no longer care. Prince Zhao, in his magnificent wedding robes, walked steadily ahead of me. Supported by my maid, I slowly walked forward. I turned a deaf ear to the clamor of the guests, focusing only on my own embroidered shoes. Just as I was stepping over the charcoal brazier, my shoe accidentally caught on Xiaoqi's robe. With a slight stumble, the red silk in his hand slipped into the brazier. It ignited instantly. Then the flames spread along the red silk I was holding. Everyone instinctively backed away. Seeing the flames on the silk, I acted panicked and lost my balance. In the chaos, I seemed to hook onto something, falling straight toward the fire pan. At that same moment, seeing this, Xiaoqi instinctively reached out and caught me by the waist. This allowed him to feel my slender waist, which was as soft as if it had no bones. I unhesitatingly fell into his chest, clinging tightly to him. Then my wedding robe also caught the fire. Xiaoqi spun around and lifted me up. He didn't intend to be close to me. He just couldn't stand by and watch me die. In front of everyone. It was even more impossible for him to push me away ungracefully. To his surprise, I suddenly clung even tighter, clutching his neck as if I were terrified. The refreshing fragrance of a young woman's body invaded his senses. When he looked down, what he saw was an exquisite and peerless face. My eyebrows were like crescent moons, my eyelashes trembled slightly, and my beautiful eyes were wide, revealing traces of fear and unease after the shock. I looked delicate and pitiful. My lips red like vermilion, like cherry blossoms in full bloom, truly a beauty as stunning as a painting. Everything just now happened in the blink of an eye. Xiaoqi's movements were quite fast. He grabbed the veil that had slipped to my chest and covered me again. He then returned to his cold and distant demeanor, his whole being radiating chilliness, and his eyes were as cold as ice, with no emotion whatsoever. His deep, steady voice rang in my ears. "Can you continue?" I nodded slightly. I knew that even if Xiaoqi didn't want to marry me, he wouldn't let me come to harm. We had never met before. And in this first meeting, he played the hero saving the beauty. This performance was enough to make Su Qingyao, hidden in the crowd, feel resentful. As for whether my actions would displease my mother-in-law, that was not within my concerns. At this point, the master of ceremonies hurriedly said, "The fire burns brighter and brighter, making the occasion even more auspicious. The future life of the prince and princess will certainly be prosperous and thrive day by day." The wedding continued. The guests, after catching a glimpse of the bride, were all talking. They were amazed. They hadn't expected that the Lu family was hiding such a peerless beauty. Some even began to recite poetry. "In all the ages, there is no beauty like this. A delight to the eyes, she is truly fair. A face that could topple cities and nations, and stunning wonder of the world." This must be a description of the Princess of Zhao. The accident happened in just a moment. The Empress, who was watching nearby, also broke into a cold sweat for us. She didn't say a word. Her expression quickly returned to normal, and she forced a smile, saying Lin Wei showed no fear, and would surely protect his wife in the future. Those around her chimed in. Prince Zhao is indeed quick-witted. If he hadn't protected the princess, that fall into the fire might have injured her face. The wedding continued to proceed. Only after all the ceremonies were completed was I escorted by maids and nannies to the bridal chamber. The groom remained in the front hall to host the guests. Once I entered the chamber, I dismissed the servants. Only my dowry maids, Hong Xiu and Lian Yi, remained. Once the door was closed, my tense nerves finally relaxed. I took off the veil myself, rubbing my aching legs and back. I ordered Lian Yi to have Nanny Su prepare water. I wanted to bathe. Lian Yi said softly, "Miss, you have such exquisite makeup on. To just wash it off like this. What a shame. A woman is at her most beautiful at the moment of her wedding." I knew what she meant. I curled my lips into a smile. Prince Zhao isn't someone who's swayed by looks alone. Besides, since he already saw it, it's no longer a novelty. If his heart isn't with the right person, any effort is in vain. Wearing such heavy and cumbersome wedding clothes only made me feel like I couldn't breathe. Lian Yi still felt it was a pity. Why hadn't Hong Xiu held me steady earlier, allowing such an accident to happen? She said no more, and went out to get the water. Hong Xiu said, "Princess, let your servant remove the phoenix crown for you, and give you a shoulder massage, to relieve your fatigue." They had followed me since childhood, and knew my temper was firm. Even before the betrothal decree arrived, I had them secretly investigate Prince Zhao. I already knew that Prince Zhao had a woman he loved. Take it off. Anyway, Xiaoqi won't be back so soon. I'd been tired all day, and was already exhausted. After I finished bathing, I prepared to take a nice nap. I also instructed Hong Xiu to wake me as soon as midnight arrived, because Xiaoqi would be coming in at exactly that time. In my previous life, I waited until my back was nearly broken from sitting, before he finally returned. Hong Xiu wasn't at all surprised by her mistress's ability to predict things. I had been clever since I was a child. At exactly midnight, faint footsteps were heard in the corridor. Hong Xiu peered out through the crack in the door. Sure enough, she saw Prince Zhao being supported by guards, walking toward the bridal chamber. She hurried to the bedside. "Miss, you are truly amazing. The prince really did return at this time. But miss, you've removed your ornaments and are barely dressed. Will the prince think you are not dignified? You are the princess of Zhao now. Can you not be as casual as you were in your private chambers? The prince doesn't like someone who is too dignified. He won't even bother to look at me, let alone care how I am dressed. Right now, I only care about my own comfort." My hair flowed like a waterfall over my shoulders. A crimson, strapless dress wrapped around my full bust. My waist was as slender as a willow, delicate enough to be held in one hand. A crimson gauze robe was draped half open over me, making my fair shoulders appear faintly visible. My exquisite face was flushed slightly red. My skin, soft as tofu, was without a single blemish. With my eyes misty with sleep, I looked like a soul-stealing little enchantress. Looking at me in such a charming state, Hong Xiu couldn't help but gulp. Even without makeup, I was still beautiful. Hearing the door outside being quietly pushed open, she hurriedly placed the veil back over me. The night wind blew in, and a strong smell of alcohol filled the air. A tall figure walked straight past the purple sandalwood screen. His robes rustled in the breeze. The first thing he saw was a pair of fair, bare feet, stepping on the red carpet. My toes curled slightly, looking extremely nervous. Seeing this scene, his handsome face was coated in frost. His brow was furrowed, and a chilling coldness seeped from his eyes, making one's heart feel cold. Hong Xiu also saw that I wasn't wearing shoes or socks. She was startled. How could she have forgotten my feet? But it was already too late. She braced herself, went around the screen, and left the room. Compared to the maid, I was much more composed. I adjusted my veil, and sat up straight. A dark shadow was cast at my feet. I pulled my toes back a bit more, arching my feet, looking cute yet seemingly timid. Xiaoqi glanced at the messy bed, and thought to himself, it seems the daughter of Grand Tutor Liu isn't as wise as his mother had described. She's already changed her clothes, removed her hair ornaments, and probably just woke up. Dressing like this? Is she trying to directly seduce me? On what grounds? Or does she think she can use that face of hers to entice this prince into consummating the marriage? He wasn't sure if what happened during the day was intentional on my part, or an accident. But he was certain that no matter how beautiful I was, I couldn't shake his heart that loved Qingyao. In fact, I seemed quite leisurely and comfortable, while he was the one who suffered outside, welcoming and seeing off guests, working until his head spun, and finally being forced to drink by his royal brothers. Xiaoqi felt stifled. Marrying me was only a temporary measure requested by his mother. He hadn't wanted to come in, but he remembered his mother agreed he could marry his love. As a side consort later, he had to maintain this bit of courtesy. Coming to speak clearly with me was good for both sides. If I stayed in my place, he naturally wouldn't mistreat me. He calmed his mind, and reached out to lift my veil. He saw my face was flushed red. My head was slightly lowered, and my body was trembling slightly. In a moment of fear, I slid to my knees on the floor. My voice was as soft as a whisper. Your servant greets, the prince. He didn't expect me to be such a timid and delicate woman. Without makeup, my features appeared even more clear and refined. My skin was fair, like the finest white jade porcelain. My eyes were gentle, soft, and elegant. I was as pure as a lotus, like a fairy who had wandered into the mortal world. Thinking back to my panicked look during the day, like a startled little deer, when I had held his neck tightly, my eyes full of confusion and fear, that pitiful appearance couldn't help but evoke a sense of tenderness and pity in one. He regained his composure, acting steady and calm. He said in a deep voice, rise. We are already husband and wife. There's no need for such formalities. I stood up like a willow swaying in the wind, and stood facing him. My eyelashes fluttered, my face was blushing deeply, and my slender fingers pulled at my already thin outer robe. The more I tried to cover up, the more it outlined my graceful figure. My bare feet were fully exposed before him, as adorable as an elf. Xiaoqi quickly looked away. He said coldly, put your clothes on properly. I looked down, realizing I was quite exposed. I walked past him with my slender waist swaying, hurriedly pulling my clothes together, while explaining in a soft voice, it's not that I don't know the rules. Please allow me to explain, Prince. During the day, my outer robe was burned. I was afraid of appearing unpresentable, so after returning to the room, I had them prepare water for a bath. I intended to reapply my makeup, but perhaps because I was too tired, I accidentally fell asleep. I lost track of the time. I don't mind. His voice was distant and cold, his gaze dim, clearly showing his displeasure. To him, regarding someone he didn't care about, he wouldn't care even if they were naked. My eyes were bright. I retreated to the side timidly, my eyes full of apprehension. I bit my red lip, and murmured a series of wedding rituals taught by Nanny Wang. Looking at the weak and timid me in front of him, it seemed he had scared me. The coldness in his eyes softened slightly, and his tone flattened. You should sit first, princess. I smiled. The smile on my face seemed infectious, causing his heart to tremble for a moment. Xiaoqi sat on the edge of the bed with a serious face. He also tried his best not to look at me, always maintaining a stiff and intentionally cold expression. I pretended not to see his avoidance, and sat down beside him without hesitation. My cheeks were flushed. Nanny Wang said, stop listening to everything Nanny Wang says. I have some things to say to you now. Xiaoqi interrupted me. A flash of sharpness in his eyes. Nanny Wang was the empress's eyes, watching him at all times. Please speak, prince. I immediately stopped talking, with my bright eyes. I gazed innocently at the man beside me. Xiaoqi was truly handsome. He wore a purple gold crown inlaid with jade. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. The corners of his eyes were long and narrow, giving him a formidable and sharp appearance. He had a high bridge to his nose, and his thin lips were pressed together, exuding an air of detachment and coldness. His features were well-defined like a sculpture, sharp-edged, and extraordinarily handsome. No wonder in my previous life I loved him as much as my own life. It's just a pity that his heart already belonged to someone else, leaving no room for anyone else. To me now, Xiaoqi is only a stepping stone for me to gain power. I will no longer have any feelings for him. But a good-looking person is indeed very attractive. I inadvertently moved closer to him. Xiaoqi keenly sensed my proximity. My outer robe suddenly fell open, revealing only a crimson gauze underneath, making my graceful body appear faintly visible. He stood up abruptly, reaffirming that the one he loved was Su Qingyao. His expression suddenly became cold and stern. His voice was heartless and cold. I already have someone I love, and I have promised that I will only love her in this life. Except for her. My heart has no room for a second woman. So I will not consummate this marriage with you. Everything Nanny Wang told you was wrong. Only two people who truly love each other can be truly honest with each other and do those things. I opened my large eyes, my face calm and without a ripple. I said softly, so the prince already has someone he loves. A man's words are as deceitful as ghosts. Once Xiaoqi ascends the throne, he will fill the harem. The imperial family will not allow him to love only one person. Later on, he will know how cruel reality is, and how insignificant his love for Su Qingyao is. My eyes were filled with confusion and ignorance. Appearing innocent and pure, I said slowly, since the betrothal decree was delivered to the Lu family, my mother also told me that I could only love you. But I hadn't even met you before. So how could I love you? Since you have a woman you love, you should have fought to marry her. What I meant was, you have someone you love, but don't have the ability to marry her. What does that have to do with me? I don't love you. Yet I still married you. Only because it's difficult to disobey the imperial will. I wanted to tell him. It's not that I intentionally intruded between the two of them. I married into the Zhao manor as the princess by imperial decree. I understand Xiaoqi. Before him, it's best to be like a blank sheet of paper. A man's possessiveness is much stronger than one might imagine. Xiaoqi was surprised by my reaction, his eyes full of scrutiny. Just now, I had approached him for no reason. Was it not because I wanted? He saw that my eyes were clear and candid, and there was no abnormality on my face. On the contrary, because of my proximity, his own heart had suddenly panicked, thinking that I was already his princess. And having heard that her husband had a woman he liked. Did I really not care at all? Or was it truly as I said, that I didn't love him? So I wouldn't mind? He asked to confirm once more. Do you really not mind her entering the manor? A woman who can be loved by the prince must be a top-notch woman. Why would I mind? Nanny Wang said since I've become the prince's wife, I should worry more about the prosperity of the manor's descendants. A princess's duty includes selecting suitable women to enter the manor, to serve the prince. In the future, I will certainly put more heart into it. Even if I didn't agree, so what? Is weeping useful? 3 days later, you would still marry her as usual. Why not just do a favor? In this life, I want to see with my own eyes just how unbreakable the love between you and Su Qingyao is. Xiaoqi saw my brows were as beautiful as a painting. My voice was soft and delicate. My face was calm without a ripple. My eyes were sincere. And my expression was normal. It was as if I really didn't care in the slightest that my husband had another woman in his heart. However, upon learning he had a woman he loved, why did I look like I had breathed a sigh of relief? Looking at such a calm me, Xiaoqi felt inexplicably irritable. Was I truly this magnanimous? Is the prince retiring for the night now? I proactively inquired. Xiaoqi's heart trembled suddenly. Since we've cleared things up, I will go sleep in the study. Don't misunderstand, prince. I won't let anything happen between us. We will just simply sleep. Can we each sleep on our own side? I grew bolder and added. Presumably the prince has had a tiring day. Why go through the trouble of moving and alarming the servants? Why not just rest here for now? It's so late. If the prince leaves his new wife's room to go to the study alone, to sleep, I'm afraid tomorrow I'll be nagged by Nanny Wang again for not fulfilling my duties. After hearing this, Xiaoqi considered things more thoroughly. No matter what, I was married in by the emperor's decree. He couldn't neglect me too much. Since I agreed to let Qingyao enter the manor, and agreed not to consummate the marriage, he had no reason to sleep in the study. Moreover, if he left tonight, the news that the Lu family's daughter was neglected on her wedding night would spread, and he wouldn't be able to explain it. As long as I acted sensibly, he wouldn't make things difficult for me. I will help the prince change, I said, but it wasn't necessary. Xiaoqi turned aside to avoid me. I walked straight behind the screen. Having been busy all day, and having drunk a lot of wine at night, he was already exhausted. He needed to wash up. My expression was indifferent. Not surprised at all. Anyway, I had already washed up. I didn't pay him any mind, climbed onto the bed into a comfortable position, and fell asleep alone. In this late spring season, the weather was starting to get warm. I was covered with a thin layer. Neither too cold nor too hot. I soon fell fast asleep. My breathing rhythmic. When Xiaoqi finished bathing, and returned, he saw me lying on the innermost part of the bed. My figure was shapely, with a waist as thin as a willow. My slender legs were resting outside the quilt, looking extremely seductive. My jade white arms were resting casually. My face was pure and ethereal. Eyes slightly closed. Eyelashes curled and quiet like a resting maiden. My lips were full and lustrous, alluring and lovely. Xiaoqi was stunned for a moment. He had to admit that my peerless beauty was rare in this world. He could only lie on the outermost part of the bed, leaving a gap the width of a person between us. A faint fragrance drifted into his nostrils. He had noticed it at noon during the day as well, this soft and light fragrance. It was extremely pleasant. He closed his eyes, but couldn't fall asleep no matter what. He focused his mind, warning himself that even if he shared a bed with a woman, he could remain undistracted. I was not the one he loved. I was but a weak woman with nothing but beauty. He could never have any improper thoughts about me. On the contrary, my sleeping posture was very beautiful, quiet and moving. Xiaoqi complained inwardly. I was quite comfortable and composed, falling asleep so quickly. He clenched his fists and turned his back to me on the bed. I will absolutely not do anything to betray Qingyao. Qingyao is the only love of my life. Soon, Qingyao will be able to marry me. He loved a woman with all his passion. He thought this was the love he wanted, not something dictated by parents' orders, or matchmakers' words. He would never be like his father, who could love all the women in his harem at once. Thinking of this, he slowly closed his eyes and drifted into dreamland. I sneered in my heart. His heart might be as hard as rock, but his body was very honest. In the previous life, he hadn't even given me a chance to speak. Before going straight to the study, in this life, he proactively got into my bed. It was a good omen. In the early morning, Xiaoqi suddenly felt a soft mass in his arms. He opened his eyes, and saw a quiet, sleeping face in his embrace. Charming and seductive. The next second, I suddenly changed my posture. My fingers inadvertently brushed against his neck, causing a warm current to surge through his body instantly. I softly pressed my cheek against him, and my lips accidentally brushed against his neck. His body suddenly went stiff. At this moment, their posture was like that of lovers who had just enjoyed themselves, full of intimacy, making one's imagination run wild. His eyes darkened with coldness. I said not to cross the line. After only one night, her true colors are revealed. She said she didn't like him, but now she was being seductive. After confirming I was still asleep, he slightly moved away from me. At this moment, Su Qingyao's bright smile and cheerful voice flashed through his mind. They were open and honest with each other, talking about anything and everything. She was very knowledgeable, a woman of learning and cultivation. She was free-spirited and unrestrained. He had never seen anyone with a temperament like Qingyao, a woman without a shred of guile. She wasn't like those women in the inner chambers, who only used schemes to get into a man's bed. However, the woman before him had nothing but beauty. She was worthless in every other way. He was not someone who only cared for looks. He always felt that beauty was nothing, and a person's inner self was what mattered most. I suddenly stretched a beautiful leg over. My skin as smooth and warm as jade. His heart trembled slightly, followed by a deep frown. Without waiting for me to make another move, he abruptly pushed me away, and got out of bed resolutely, as if there were no emotional ripples in his heart. Cool and ruthless. I was woken up by him, looking a bit bewildered, rubbing my blurry eyes. I looked at the man fleeing in a panic before me. Prince. My voice was charming. The soft call made one feel like it was soft and sweet. Xiaoqi turned back and glanced at me, only to see that my clothes were in disarray on the bed. Lu Yingyan, you've really put on a good show. You almost made me believe that you were a simple-minded woman. Having said that, he left the wedding chamber without looking back. Why does the prince criticize me so? What happened? I just felt it was completely baffling. Xiaoqi must have heard this. He seemed even angrier. Angry at my unintentional seduction. Angry at himself for being flustered. My eyes were full of indifference. At this time, it was exactly when Xiaoqi and Su Qingyao were deeply in love. Sleeping in the same room as his new wife. He must have felt guilty. The maid, Hong Xiu, walked in trembling. The servant saw the prince leave looking very angry. How did the princess make the prince so angry? Last night, the princess and the prince were. Don't think too much, nothing happened between us. I got out of bed nonchalantly. Lian Yu was astonished, faced with such beauty. The prince actually remained unmoved. Could he be the modern-day Prince Zhao, a paragon of virtue? He's not exactly a man of character either. According to the servant's investigation, Prince Zhao and that wild woman are very close. Full of affection and sweet talk. The prince is completely devoted to that woman. The young lady is 10,000 times better than her. The prince has actually wronged you so much. Your marriage to the prince was decreed by the emperor. Yet he neglects you right after the wedding. My eyes turned slightly cold. I said solemnly, watch your tongue. If you don't learn the rules, I will send you back to the manor. Lian Yu was frightened. And immediately fell silent, kneeling respectfully on the floor. The servant wants to serve you for a lifetime. Please don't send me away. I said solemnly. Be more cautious in the future. This is not the Lu manor. Get up and help me dress. We still have to go to the palace to pay our respects later. Although Lian Yi talks a lot, she is unfailingly loyal. In the previous life, she died protecting me. They don't yet understand the charm of imperial power. Imperial power means being able to command soldiers and generals, and decide someone's life or death with a simple word. My marriage is so insignificant in their eyes. Who would even care? Having suffered through one lifetime, I will learn my lesson. Soon after, Nanny Wang and the others entered in a file. A moment later, she walked up to me and shook her head. Last night, the princess and the prince did not consummate their marriage. My eyes were slightly downcast, preventing anyone from seeing my true emotions. My voice was low. It was only last night I learned the prince's heart belongs to someone else. Everything the nanny taught me didn't work. I am truly useless. Nanny Wang looked at me, as beautiful as a painting. Such a beauty. Yet the prince actually stayed chaste for that other woman. Nanny Wang was one of the empress's people. So she was in the know. She smiled awkwardly. Princess, there is no need to be anxious. The days ahead are long. The prince will eventually see your good qualities. I obediently nodded without saying a word. As soon as I reached the front hall, I saw Shaoqi waiting there, looking like an immortal. No matter how angry he was, the rule about the new couple going to pay respects to the empress, he still understood it. Today, Shaoqi was wearing a purple robe, with a matching belt at his waist, decorated with golden cloud patterns. His black hair was tied up, wearing a jade-inlaid gold crown. His slender body stood straight, making him look elegant and handsome, exuding an innate nobility. Today, I wore a light purple outer gown, over a mist-colored pleated skirt. My shoulders were delicate, my waist slender, my neck was long, my skin fair and smooth, exuding a gentle grace. Every combination of clothing could highlight a different aspect of my charm. Today's hairstyle made me look even more dignified and elegant, looking proper and impressive. I had applied some makeup. My appearance was stunning. I walked slowly and gracefully toward him. I greet the prince. My voice was gentle, completely different from how it had been last night, when it was casual and seductive. I was maintaining the poise of a princess. Shaoqi was a bit stunned, but then turned his head and said coldly, according to the law, today I must take you into the palace to pay respects. If you are ready, then let us go. Yes, I replied, neither humble nor arrogant. Shaoqi had originally wanted to give me some instructions, but seeing that I was dressed appropriately and carried myself with great dignity, he said nothing more. Presumably Nanny Wang had already taught me everything. The two of us took a carriage into the palace. The carriage stopped as soon as we reached the Qingtian gate. Even for a prince's carriage entering the palace, one must switch to a palace carriage at the Qingtian gate to enter the inner palace. Shaoqi was the first to step out and get off the carriage gracefully. I followed right behind him, but I suddenly stopped. My watery eyes stared awkwardly at Shaoqi, and my voice was soft. Could the prince please help me? My maid is not by my side, and the manor's carriage is much taller than the one at home. Shaoqi saw me standing weakly on the high carriage, my eyes showing a touch of nervousness. He frowned. Could I not get down by myself? He didn't want to wait long, so he took a step forward and offered me his arm, gesturing for me to hold onto it as I got down. My fingers lightly touched his palm, and I gracefully stepped off the carriage. I smiled brightly. Thank you, Prince. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. A woman who can be coy will be doted on, while a sensible woman is left to suffer. The lessons I didn't learn in an entire lifetime, I learned them all in the Yichuan brothel. The warm and soft touch seemed to remind Shaoqi of some intimate scenes. He didn't say much. When it was time to get into the next carriage, he said coldly, hold my arm. I looked up at him and held onto Shaoqi's arm, avoiding any skin contact. Mindful of even this? Truly laughable. I was enjoying myself. Shaoqi was full of reluctance, yet he had to take care of me at the right moments. The two of them looked very much like a loving newlywed couple. The man was handsome and the woman beautiful, becoming a beautiful scene in the palace. In a distant corridor, a young girl in a crimson outfit stared blankly at this scene, feeling an unspeakable pain in her heart. The maid, Yin Xing, grumbled on the side. Prince Zhao made vows to you, miss, saying he would marry no one but you in this life. Now, not only has he married someone else as his princess, But he's also treating her with such care. I really feel it's not worth it for you. He has explained it. Marrying her was not what he wanted. The emperor's command is hard to disobey. He also promised me that he will never fall for another woman in this life. Yesterday, when Xiaoqi was getting married, she was hidden in the crowd. She had clearly seen his astonished expression when he saw me. Her heart was in pain. She had waited for him all night at the moon tower. She thought he would come. In the end, he didn't come. They must have consummated their marriage last night, right? The more she thought about it, the more heartbroken she became. If not for her love for him, she would have left. But just as her nurse had said, having to give up the man she loved, how could she be willing? Su Qingyao clenched her fists and whispered, I will never let go. He is mine. Just then, the 9th princess suddenly popped out. So, Sister Qingyao, you slipped out secretly. Just to see 5th brother's new princess. I'm not looking at her. I want to go horse riding. Su Qingyao was full of confidence. She believed He wouldn't fall for anyone else. He was not a man to be swayed by beauty. Because they were too far away yesterday. And she had been hidden in the crowd. She hadn't seen clearly what I looked like. Actually, she also wanted to see what I looked like. She had just been watching from the palace wall, only noticing the distant silhouette was tall and graceful, but she couldn't see my features clearly. I'll see what kind of woman dares to steal Sister Qingyao's sweetheart. 5th brother. Did you forget that Sister Qingyao is still waiting for you? If she sees you being so close with someone else, how sad would she be? Su Qingyao wanted to stop her, but Xiao Lingyue had already led her people and walked over aggressively. The carriage had just stopped at the gate of the Kunming Palace. I stepped out of the carriage elegantly. This time, Xiaoqi proactively offered his arm to help me down. A smile played on my lips. He seemed to be keeping a very professional and distant demeanor. Just as my hand touched him, I was pushed by a force. Prince, I cried out. My footing wasn't steady, and I tumbled down from the carriage. Xiaoqi was quick to catch me by the waist. My eyes were filled with lingering fear. My face turned pale, and my body was trembling. My arms were wrapped around his neck. My voice as seductive as silk. The prince has saved my life again. Such life-saving grace is beyond repayment. Xiaoqi set me on the ground and glared at Xiao Lingyue. He said coldly, 9th sister, how can you be so mischievous? Xiao Lingyue hadn't intended to push me off the carriage. She just wanted to separate our hands. It was just an eyesore to her. She hadn't thought it would cause me to fall, and even give me the chance to be saved by her brother. Xiao Lingyue was only 13. She puffed out her lips. What had just happened was not what she wanted to see, nor what Sister Qingyao would want to see. Instead of apologizing, she said it on purpose. 5th brother. Did you forget that Sister Qingyao is still waiting for you? If she sees you being so affectionate with someone else, how sad would she be? At the mention of Su Qingyao, Xiaoqi's heart grew anxious. Where is Qingyao? Xiao Lingyue said loudly, she knew you were bringing your new princess into the palace, so she went to the stables to ride horses. Hearing this, Xiaoqi turned to leave without a second thought. I was quick, pretending to twist my ankle, and grabbed onto his arm, pulling him back. I lowered my head and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. Prince, if you want to marry Miss Qingyao into the manor, you cannot leave right now. The empress is still waiting in the Kunming Palace. If Miss Qingyao wants to enter the manor, it can only happen if the empress nods her head. Otherwise, she will be branded with a reputation of improper conduct. Xiaoqi was suddenly startled. His gaze was as cold as ice, staring at me as if he wanted to burn a hole in me. What he said was even more hurtful. If it weren't for you, Qingyao would be my primary princess. I said nonchalantly, Prince, think about it calmly. Even without me, there would be other women to marry you. I suspect Miss Qingyao can never be the prince's primary princess. That is why the prince was forced to marry me, wasn't it? Xiaoqi's eyes were full of suspicion. The woman before him was not at all as weak as he imagined. I appeared to have no schemes at all, blinking my large eyes, with a look of complete innocence. Prince, please endure this for a while. I will certainly help you marry Miss Qingyao into the manor. I will accompany you to see Miss Qingyao later. I will explain everything to her for you. Nothing happened between us last night. In the future, I will not compete with her for anything. Since you two are in love, I will definitely not interfere. The prince only needs to give me a bit of dignity in the manor, so that I am not subjected to gossip. My eyes were clear, pure as water, and my face was full of sincerity. Xiaoqi hadn't expected that I would be so considerate of him and Qingyao. I was clearly the princess of Zhao, yet I was humbling myself to this extent. A flash of guilt crossed Xiaoqi's eyes. Clearly, the grudge between the empress and noble consort Su should not be taken out on us. Marrying someone I don't like, I am also a victim. Once Xiaoqi realized this, he said to Xiao Lingyue, 9th sister, go tell Qingyao to wait for me at the usual place. Xiao Lingyue didn't know what we had whispered to each other. She thought her 5th brother would leave me for Sister Qingyao. I stood there gracefully and nodded to Xiao Lingyue. Ninth princess. Will you be coming with us to pay respects to the empress? Xiao Lingyue puffed out her cheeks and glared at me. This princess is going to find Sister Qingyao. In my heart, only Sister Qingyao is my sister-in-law. Don't anyone else even think about it. With that, she walked away with her head held high. I sneered in my heart. If I really let you take Xiaoqi away today, it would be my face as the princess that was lost. In my past life, I would have cried my eyes out. But now, inside the Kunming Palace, Mama Wang had long since sent word to Empress Chen that we hadn't consummated our marriage. Naturally, the small episode that happened outside was already known to the Empress. No matter how I did it, I'd ultimately preserved my own dignity. Empress Chen's elegant brows rose slightly. She said calmly, if Lu Yingyan is capable, consummation is only a matter of time. From what I see today, I have chosen a good princess for my son. Mama, she added. The prince helped the princess on and off the carriage. He clearly likes the princess. The ninth princess is far too lacking in manners. She was already at the palace gate. Yet she didn't come in to pay her respects to your majesty. I truly don't know how the noble consort taught her. Empress Chen also disliked Xiao Lingyue. Sooner or later, she will have her share of suffering. Mama, she said gleefully. Ever since the prince's marriage was decided, the noble consort went to the emperor to weep and complain, saying that Miss Su and our prince are in love, asking for a favor for Miss Su. In the end, the emperor refused the noble consort, saying the monarch's word is final. Her face was so unsightly at the time. The emperor surely vented some frustration for your majesty. Your majesty was wise to get the decree before the noble consort could. At this, the empress's face darkened instantly. She instigated her niece to seduce my son, bewitching him completely. Since they love each other, I will not be the one to tear them apart and damage my relationship with my son. I will fulfill her wish and let her be a concubine. Mama, she flattered her. Your majesty is wise. Empress Chen sneered. My son needs to stay low for now. He has reached the age for marriage. Marrying the daughter of a powerless official will set the emperor's mind at ease. The Lu family is from a scholarly background. She is a barely acceptable match. The emperor also intended to warn Prince Zhao and keep the Chen family in check. Both emperor and empress had their own motives. The emperor's decree of marriage was exactly what the empress wanted. Just then, a palace maid entered to report. Your majesty, the prince and princess have arrived at the main hall. Empress Chen adjusted her hair, took Mama Xi's arm, and rose from her seat. Let's go and see my beautiful new daughter-in-law. She chose the Lu daughter for another reason. The Lu family had no power, making her easier to control in the future. Magnificent and grand. The palace was solemn, elegant, and luxurious. The entire palace exuded majesty and nobility. Such a display. Besides the emperor's palace, the empress's palace was the most splendid. As Xiaoqi and I were led into the hall, I looked straight ahead, neither humble nor arrogant, always maintaining a dignified posture. I knew noble consort Su and Empress Chen were in a bitter struggle. Before the emperor, noble consort Su always overshadowed the empress. Though the empress was the legal wife, her bond with the emperor was thin as paper. She had always been frustrated, lacking her husband's love for her entire life. Thinking of this, the corners of my mouth curled. She was very much like me. However, the empress was very clever. She planned for her position her whole life. While I had been obsessed with Xiaoqi's love, I was incredibly foolish. Just then, the empress entered with a smile. Sitting gracefully on the soft couch, Xiaoqi quickly knelt. Your son pays respects to mother. I also bowed respectfully. Your daughter-in-law pays respects to mother. The empress's eyes were fixed on me. She smiled and said, no need for such formality. Rise, both of you. Xiaoqi, quickly help your wife up. Xiaoqi properly helped me up. I stood up gracefully. Thank you, prince. Just then, Mama Xi brought over the tea. I took it and stepped forward. Mother, please have some tea. The empress took a sip and set it down. She ordered the maid to bring a tray. On it were several pieces of exquisite jewelry. They were gifts for our first meeting. I accepted them respectfully and thanked my mother-in-law. The tea ceremony passed uneventfully. The empress suddenly spoke. The incident outside the palace. I have heard about it. The prince wants to take her as a side consort. Do you have any objections? My face remained calm, and my attitude was respectful. In reply to mother, I have no objections. When I return to the manor, I will start making arrangements for the side consort's entry. The empress's brow furrowed slightly. She surpassed Su Qingyao in appearance, but her personality was a bit soft. She feared I was no match for that scheming Su Qingyao. The empress then had Mama Xi attend to us warmly, took my hand, and praised, this daughter-in-law of mine outshines all the women in the capital. Your delicate looks truly please me. I acted shyly. Mother overpraises me. I am not that good. I stole a glance at Xiaoqi. The empress saw this and added, if I say you are good, you are good. Ying Yan is your name. Let's call you Yan Yan. In the future, I will be like your mother. And call you Yan Yan, alright? I appeared overwhelmed by the favor. Yes, my delicate appearance was pure and harmless. As if I were an obedient and useful wife. In my past life, because I didn't get Xiaoqi's love. And didn't listen to the empress. I became an outcast to her. Later, Su Qingyao's methods were indeed brilliant. Xiaoqi almost broke his mother-son bond for her, even after Su Qingyao became empress. Noble consort Su and the empress shared the title of dowager, which made the empress spit blood and anger. In this life, I am willing to be the empress's tool. Even by unscrupulous means, I will reach the top. After the morning greetings, Xiaoqi made an excuse to go to the imperial study alone. I stayed behind to talk with the empress. I sat gracefully on the stool. The empress spoke openly. Less than 2 days into the marriage. Are you truly willing to let him take a side consort? Even if I'm unwilling, I can't change anything. It's better to fulfill their wishes. And let the lovers be together. Doesn't mother think so too? The more you hinder him, the more he will resist. Better to just let him go. My features were exquisite and beautiful. My expression calm, like a gentle breeze. Not a ripple disturbed my crystal clear eyes. As if I truly didn't mind. Empress Chen studied me for a moment. And a smile suddenly played on her lips. You truly are a wise woman. With such a virtuous wife like Yan Yan caring for him. I can be at ease. Su Qingyao grew up on the border. Her personality is a bit too lively. My son is only infatuated for a moment. Because she's something new. Once side consort Su enters the manor. I will leave the task of teaching her to you. As for how to teach her. Yan Yan, you should come up with your own plan. She is just a concubine after all. Men just need a bit of coaxing. He will naturally come to your room. I understand. My ears turned crimson. I lowered my hand slightly, keeping my gaze on the teacup before me. The empress was trying to win me over. I had to respond in some way. I said softly. Since I was a child, I heard my father praise the prince. He is a master of both literary and martial arts, exceptionally talented and capable. He once entered the Imperial Academy and faced many scholars, becoming famous in a single battle. Later, when the Hu tribe gathered 300,000 troops to attack Bazhou, their military was unstoppable. One city after another fell. The 15-year-old Prince Zhao led a dozen men, and infiltrated the enemy camp, capturing the enemy leader alive. The Hu tribe retreated. The prince won a beautiful victory for the great Zhou. The prince is so brave and extraordinary, which is also a credit to mother's careful teaching. At the mention of Xiaoqi's past achievements, Empress Chen's eyes shone with pride. But when she thought of how her son's exceptional talents were not being used by the emperor, her brows couldn't help but knit together. He was being held back because of her, and thus lacked the emperor's affection. A flash of confusion appeared on my youthful face. Mother, what's wrong? She glanced at me, and pulled my hand directly into hers. Xiaoqi's mind is currently completely occupied by that woman. It's a headache for me too. So you must put more effort into him. I believe the prince will understand mother's intentions. There is a saying, start a family, then a career. Before the prince was married, his mind was naturally unfocused. It's understandable why father wasn't comfortable giving him duties. Now it's different. Once side consort Su enters the manor, the prince will eventually become diligent and ambitious. Hearing this, the empress felt enlightened. Her eyes brightened. That's a good idea. Let Xiaoqi go before the emperor, and ask for a position. Before, the emperor wouldn't give him important tasks. Now it's different. My son is married now. He is a man. He cannot be idle all day long. The emperor has no reason to refuse if I speak up. Actually, he doesn't need any major responsibility for now. The empress understood. What do you mean by that? The crown prince position is currently vacant. The princes are all competing for achievements and recognition. Xiaoqi naturally needs to make a great contribution. The world is at peace now. The prince only needs to stay by the emperor's side and share his burdens. The capital has countless affairs, large and small. With the prince's intelligence and talent, I think he can definitely handle them. If the prince handles affairs properly, the emperor will naturally be pleased. The empress's pupils widened. She was indeed the daughter of a high official. Staying under the emperor's nose is better than letting him go to some far-off place. She said gently, Yan Yan, which position do you think is suitable? I heard there is a vacancy in the capital right now. The governor of Jinzhou Prefecture. I think the prince is perfect for that role. It's also a chance to temper him, while waiting for the emperor's further use. My gaze shifted slightly. Giving him something to do would keep him from spending all day with Su Qingyao. After hearing this, the empress suddenly stood up from her seat. When the emperor was still crown prince, he also held the position of governor of Jinzhou. I will go to the imperial study immediately to ask for the decree. Yan Yan, you stay in the palace for a while. Empress Chen feared this plum position would fall into the hands of another prince if she missed the chance. She had Mama Shi dress her up again. Ordered Mama Shi to bring a bowl of soup from the kitchen, placed it in a stone box, and went to find the emperor. I quickly rose to see her off. Only when the empress was far away did I stand tall and walk out of the main hall. I remember when Shaoqi was made crown prince. He would put on his armor again in a year to repel the Hu tribe's full-scale invasion. Shaoqi fought that battle beautifully. Later, he did well in water conservancy, showing extraordinary ability. The emperor was greatly pleased. And only then was he named crown prince. But in that year, after he and Su Qingyao married, the two of them were very affectionate, and their feelings intensified. At the same time, Shaoqi left the Kunming palace and went straight to the horse stables. At this time, he didn't yet know that his wife had found him a troublesome and entangling job. In the future, even if there were no official business, I would create business for him, so he could perform well before the emperor. On the track, a bay horse was galloping fast. On the horse was a valiant woman in red, skillfully manipulating the reins. Shaoqi saw her and wanted to call for her to stop, but she couldn't hear him because they were too far away, so he mounted a horse and chased after her. Shaoqi was very good at horsemanship. When he caught up to Su Qingyao, he pulled the reins tight. Qingyao, don't be angry anymore. Lu Yingyan and I are perfectly innocent. Su Qingyao's eyes were slightly red. She stubbornly refused to let her tears fall. I am not angry. Since the prince has married his princess, he should live a good life with her. I'm going home. Back to the general's manor at the border. Shaoqi grew anxious. He left his horse and leaped onto the back of Su Qingyao's horse. And you say you're not angry. What will I do if you leave? The emperor's decree of marriage. I have no way to disobey it. Marrying her was just a strategic move. The person I love is only you, Qingyao. Su Qingyao stopped acting cold. A look of joy appeared on her face, and she burrowed into Shaoqi's arms. He, do you really have nothing with her? I swear to heaven. Su Qingyao quickly covered his mouth. I don't want you to swear. I only want you to love me with all your heart. To have only me in your heart. His eyes were full of tenderness as he agreed. I promise you are the only one in my heart. Su Qingyao's eyes were full of disappointment. It's a pity your mother doesn't like me. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so eager to marry you. To that princess. I have truly sacrificed a lot for you. Originally, I didn't have to marry you as a side consort. Back home, there were many men who proposed to me. I could have been their primary wife. But I only have you in my heart. I can't bear to be apart from you. Shaoqi felt even more satisfied. The Su family would never normally let their daughter be a concubine to someone else. He promised that if he could ever reach the top, he would definitely give her the best. The Su family also knew that among the many princes, Prince Zhao had the best chance. If it weren't for the bad relationship between the empress and the emperor, given Prince Zhao's talents, the emperor would have named him crown prince long ago. In addition, noble consort Su had no sons, so she had no connection to the dowager empress position. For the Su family to survive, they had to find another way. Who knew the empress would interfere and force another woman into the position of Princess Zhao? Su Qingyao acted angry. But why did you still hold her? When did I hold her? Su Qingyao said coquettishly. I saw it all. You did hold her. Is she beautiful? Shaoqi's mind flashed back to my exceptionally beautiful face. His body stiffened, and he was dazed for a moment. She's all right. Is she prettier than me? Shaoqi couldn't answer. In his heart, Su Qingyao was the best. Not just because she was beautiful. He didn't love someone for their looks. He just simply loved her. Seeing that he didn't answer, Su Qingyao felt as if something were blocked in her heart. She lifted her face and said confidently, I am the most beautiful girl on our prairie. You must remember. You married the most beautiful girl on the prairie. It's your blessing that I'm willing to marry you. Her words were quite boastful. No wonder the empress didn't like her. People in the world are arrogant. But who can be more arrogant than a prince? Shaoqi didn't mind. He only felt her personality was straightforward. And without schemes, he liked such a confident girl. He said, so I look forward to the day you marry me. She proactively kissed his lips. You must promise me. No matter how beautiful she is, you are not allowed to like her. He answered definitely, I don't like her. Su Qingyao was triumphant. She isn't allowed to like you either. But my is so handsome. It's impossible for her not to like you. A strange feeling flashed through Shaoqi's heart. I indeed don't like him. I even proactively arranged the marriage for them. He recalled one sentence I had said correctly. What he and Su Qingyao were doing was a clandestine affair. He feared his father would be even more disappointed in him. After writing for a while, he suddenly said, let's go back. Su Qingyao paused. Are we going back so soon? He wasn't like this before. Is it because of me? He cares about me. I still need to pay my respects to father. His voice became cold and deep, giving off an unquestionable sense of authority. On the other side, the empress indeed asked for the position of governor of Jinzhou for Prince Zhao. In addition to his joy, the emperor only sneered. It's good to be young, carefree, and brave. He doesn't even come himself to ask for a position. The empress quickly explained. Actually, Shaoqi is very ambitious. When he was a child, the emperor heavily slammed the memorial in his hand onto the desk. It's because he was spoiled by you that he acts so recklessly. If he were ambitious, he wouldn't spend all day thinking about women, being idle all day long. Even if I give him this position, can he do it well? The empress's face turned from blue to white. She didn't even feel the pain as her nails dug into her palm. She suddenly looked up and stared straight at the emperor. Your Majesty, you don't have to be so biased. If your Majesty were just a little fairer, letting him be like the other princes, would he be so idle all day? Every single word your Majesty says is to belittle him. Remember what a clever child he was when he was little. The empress began to scold as she spoke. Shaoqi's great achievements as a child were all ignored because the emperor didn't like the empress, innocently causing his son to be neglected by his Majesty. The emperor frowned deeply. His deafening roar echoed through the hall. Have you had enough? A grand empress? How can you behave so unseemly? The empress was roared at, her body trembling violently. It wasn't because of fear, but because the emperor's harsh words were like sharp blades, cutting into her heart, making her bleed in pain. He despised her so much. With a crisp bang, the door to the study was pushed open. Shaoqi stood outside with a cold expression, staring straight at the emperor at the desk. The empress turned her head, ignoring her grief and breach of etiquette. She quickly called out, Shower, hurry and pay respects to your father. Shaoqi hid the coldness in his eyes and stepped through the door. Every step he took was heavy. He didn't stop until he reached the emperor. He respectfully clasped his hands and said, Son pays respects to father. The emperor's cold eyes stared at him, and his voice was devoid of emotion. Rise. Shaoqi was as respectful as ever. Thank you, father. The emperor had just finished arguing with the empress, yet he acted as if he were accustomed to it, as if nothing had happened. Your mother has come to ask for a position for you. The governor of Jinzhou position is currently vacant. If you cannot handle it, I will appoint someone else. He only said the last sentence, assuming Shaoqi would refuse. Shaoqi clasped his hands. I will not fail the expectations of father and mother. Thank you, father. His well-defined knuckles were clenched into a fist. The force so strong his bones seemed to show through. The emperor was also decisive, immediately issuing the decree. Prince Zhao was appointed as the governor of Jinzhou. The empress was secretly happy, but dared not show it. The emperor didn't even bother to look at them. Dismissed. Shaoqi spoke again, Father. What else? I and General Su's daughter, Su Qingyao, are deeply in love. I request father to issue a decree. I wish to marry General Su's daughter as a side consort. As soon as these words were spoken, the emperor's gaze turned slightly cold, staring at him intensely. The Su family is willing to marry their daughter to Prince Zhao as a concubine? It seems the Su family thinks highly of Prince Zhao. The empress was so scared her heart almost jumped out. At a time like this, why does he still want to marry that woman? The emperor's expression was unreadable. After a moment, he said, Such a small matter. Let your mother decide. What does the empress think? The empress's eyes flickered. Our son already has a princess. Whether more people enter the household should be decided by the princess. The emperor's lips curled slightly. Then it settled. The emperor also made a calculation. Without an imperial decree for the marriage, the Su family would be dissatisfied with Prince Zhao making their daughter a concubine. I take my leave. Shaoqi clenched his fists. He wanted to seek a noble status for Su Qingyao, but he didn't expect it to backfire. The final decision had actually fallen into my hands. After the empress left, I felt a bit bored in the palace, so I let the female official accompany me to the garden for a walk. It was the season when all flowers were in bloom. The garden was filled with flowers competing in beauty, blooming delicately. I had a faint smile on my face, as expected of the palace where the empress resides. The style is extraordinary. The weather was a bit hot, so I asked the female official to find me a fan. On the gold-edged embroidered round fan, there was a young girl catching butterflies. The girl's posture was light, her spinning body looking as if she were dancing. In this scene, I also wanted to perform a light dance. My red lips parted slightly, and I began to sing, The red makeup blooms in the night. The makeup is as beautiful as the dawn clouds. With the phoenix crown and clouds, a new heart, a new love, happily marrying into your home. The melodious singing attracted the attention of the maids and eunuchs of Cunning Palace. Smiles were on everyone's faces, their eyes full of amazement. Princess Zhao actually has such a beautiful voice, and such charming dance moves. I stepped lightly, my figure graceful, like a willow swaying in the spring breeze. My eyes were deep and blurred. Singing red makeup, my eyes seemed to hold 1,000 words, completely lost in my own world. The round fan in my hand was more like a weapon. The small garden seemed to turn into my battlefield and stage. My fingers were slender, my arms outstretched, vibrant and light. I spun at times, and jumped at times. My purple skirt fluttered, like a blooming purple peony, boldly beautiful, and intoxicating. The people around seemed infected by my dance, becoming enthusiastic and excited. My every frown and smile showed charm and bashfulness, perfectly matching my state of mind when I first got married. When Xiaoqi returned to Cunning Palace, he happened to see my graceful dance and hear my beautiful singing. The depression in his heart seemed to vanish instantly. The smile on my face seemed to be able to melt all the coldness in the world. He only knew then that I had also married him with beautiful wishes. I had hoped to be with my husband, living a life without limits. The Empress's anger remained. She returned a step later than Xiaoqi, so she was in no mood to appreciate the singing and dancing. Suddenly seeing the garden crowded with people, she didn't know what had happened. She roared, "What are you all crowding around for? What were you just doing?" Instantly, the maids and eunuchs scattered. The sounds in the garden came to an abrupt halt. I looked up and saw Xiaoqi and the Empress arriving. I was so startled that I lost color, falling to the ground unexpectedly. Immediately after, I cried out in pain. My whole body went limp. "Mother, please forgive me." I saw the scenery in the garden was truly beautiful, and for a moment, I couldn't help myself. While dancing in the garden, I accidentally fell. The Empress was angry at the Emperor, not me, so she said coldly, "Rise." I bit my lip and tried to stand up, but the pain in my ankle was unbearable. My face turned pale from the pain. Fine sweat broke out on my forehead, and I looked at a loss. Xiaoqi saw my palm covering my ankle. He asked in a low voice, "Sprained your foot?" My heart fluttered as I lowered my eyes. I nodded with tears in my eyes. It seemed like it. Xiaoqi stepped forward and picked me up, walking toward the inner palace. My eyes widened in shock, staring blankly at Xiaoqi's face. His face was still as cold as ice, and his movements were quite rough. When he placed me on the soft couch, there was no tenderness at all. He said deeply, "Before the doctor arrives, I will check if you injured any bones." A flash of light appeared in my eyes. The prince also knows medicine? Xiaoqi didn't want to explain. This was essential knowledge for a soldier. After all, in this life, he probably had no more chance to gallop across the battlefield. Father's dislike had long made him an abandoned prince. He personally lifted the corner of my skirt and took off my shoe and sock. My perfect foot was entirely red, and the ankle was swollen. As soon as he pressed it with his finger, tears rolled out of my eyes instantly from the pain. Xiaoqi looked at the tearful beauty before him, biting a handkerchief, enduring the pain. He said softly, "Shout if it hurts. You'll feel better if you shout it out." My tears wouldn't stop. I shook my head with my eyes tightly shut. In the unbearable pain, I even began to bite the back of my own hand. Xiaoqi had never seen a woman so afraid of pain. He hadn't even truly started the treatment. It would only hurt more when applying ice later. He ordered the maid to get ice. "The bone isn't broken, just sprained. Apply ice first, then ointment." I asked with a sob, "Prince, will it hurt very much?" His tone was flat. "It will hurt, but it'll pass if you endure it." I shrank my leg, curling up on the couch. My eyebrows were tightly knitted. Those eyes filled with tears were like deep lakes. The tears on my cheeks rolled down like pearls. My fair face was flushed, beautiful enough to break one's heart. I pleaded softly, "Can I skip the ointment? It won't hurt as much if it's not touched. Let it get better slowly on its own." Xiaoqi deliberately scared me. "Without ice and ointment, don't expect this foot to heal properly. You might be lame in the future." I was so scared that I immediately extended my leg, gently kicking my foot into his lap. I said with a sob, "I can endure it. I don't want to be lame." Xiaoqi shook his head helplessly. Soon, the maid brought the ice. He ordered the maid to apply it to me, but as soon as the ice touched my ankle, my tears rolled down like broken pearls. My lips trembled from the pain. I kept crying out, "Be careful, it hurts." Seeing this, the maid dared not use any force, but as long as the injury was touched slightly, the pain made my whole body stiffen. Xiaoqi couldn't stand it anymore. He said deeply, "How can the swelling go down without force?" The maid dared not disobey, and tried to increase the pressure. I bit the back of my hand hard from the pain, and blood marks soon appeared. Xiaoqi looked at me as if I were about to faint from the pain. He said to the maid, "The force isn't right. Let me do it. You all dismiss yourselves." The maid quickly left as if relieved of a heavy burden. Xiaoqi sat on a low stool, gently holding my foot in his hands. His cold fingertips slowly circled my ankle, trying to let me adapt to the pain. He said, "Stop biting your hand. If you keep biting, that will have to be treated too. Grab my arm. Think of something else to distract yourself." I nodded obediently, holding his arm tightly with both hands. The next second, when the ice touched the painful spot again, I suddenly gripped his arm. The force was so great I almost pinched his arm to death, but in the end, I didn't move around again. He continued to circle to reduce the swelling for me. At the peak of the pain, I suddenly hugged his shoulders, my fingers tightly digging into his back. Xiaoqi's brow furrowed slightly. His handsome features flushed. A young girl's scent lingered at the tip of his nose. My cheek accidentally brushed against his ear. bringing a tingling sensation. I don't know how much time passed, but the swelling in my ankle finally eased slightly. I felt as if I were about to faint from the pain. In a daze, I slumped weakly into his arms. My forehead was covered in sweat. My whole body drenched in fragrant perspiration, looking quite pitiable. Xiaoqi's throat moved, his heart beating faster and faster. I rubbed restlessly in his arms. Fortunately, there were only the two of them in the hall. Otherwise, if the maids and eunuchs saw this scene, they would think the two had shared an intimate moment. Outside the hall, the Empress let the doctor leave the injury medicine, and then dismissed him. A faint smile appeared on her lips, and she signaled others not to enter and disturb them. Nanny, she whispered in her ear, I have never seen the prince so patient. If the prince can gain the princess's favor, it would help your ladyship remove your worries. The Su family's daughter, our son, is sentimental. He will never give up Su Qingyao for Lu Yingyan. Now we can only see if Shower can care for Yingyan. With such a delicate beauty like she's made of water, the prince will inevitably be moved. Since the emperor agreed to let him serve as governor of Jinzhou, it shows he hasn't completely abandoned him. With his intelligence, he will certainly achieve something. Yingyan was right. By letting Shower stay under the emperor's nose, the emperor can then remember that he has such an excellent legitimate son. When returning home, the empress claimed she was tired. She didn't come out to see us off, letting us return to the manor on our own. My foot was wrapped in bandages, and I was carried into the carriage by Xiaoqi. Back at Prince Zhao's manor, Xiaoqi carried me into the bedroom and turned to leave. I quickly called out to him, Prince. Xiaoqi paused and turned back. What is it? I said softly, thank you. Xiaoqi said deeply, it was also mother. Accidentally scaring you, which caused you to fall and sprain your foot. No need for thanks. I added urgently, and the time before that. I must thank you, Prince. Xiaoqi paused, knowing I meant the brazier accident on our wedding day, and the time I almost fell off the carriage in the palace. He instructed Hongxiu, the princess. Be careful not to let her foot touch water when bathing. Try not to walk for the next few days. When carrying me, he clearly felt my clothes were soaked with sweat. He thought it would be hard to sleep well in such a state. Xiaoqi hadn't even noticed it himself, but he had already accepted me as his wife. The way the two were interacting already had a sense of mutual respect. Hongxiu respectfully replied, yes, I will take good care of her. After Xiaoqi left, I sat up straight, my eyes returning to calm. I picked up the water cup on the table and took a sip. I ordered, prepare the hot water. Hongxiu asked curiously, Princess, what happened between you and the prince in the palace? The prince actually carried you back, and said those caring words. He seems to really care about you. The bashfulness on my face vanished instantly, replaced by a calm expression. Don't overthink it. He is like this to everyone, especially to Su Qingyao, to whom he is even more gentle. Hongxiu was full of confusion. The prince is so extraordinary. Any woman would be moved. Why was her own mistress so unmoved? After bathing, I had someone set out the 4 treasures of the study on the desk, and began to practice calligraphy to calm my mind. Xiaoqi would definitely not come again tonight. He had no reason to step into my bridal chamber, so I had to take the initiative to find some ways. In my previous life, Su Qingyao deliberately chose to enter the manor on the day of my return to my parental home. In this life, since the Empress has given me full authority over this matter, I want him to wait a bit longer. I personally wrote an auspicious date on a note. Give this to the prince. Ask him if he thinks it's appropriate. If he's not satisfied, then invite the prince here, and we will discuss it further. Lian Yu took a look at the note overnight. It was set for 5 days later. Today is March 23rd. 5 days later will be March 28th. Lian Yu didn't understand, and asked, Princess, why let that woman enter the manor so soon? If she really enters the manor, won't you lose your chance, princess? I said calmly. The 5th day is just the date I proposed. The prince will soon be busy with official duties. She won't enter the manor that easily. Hongxiu and Lian Yu were full of confusion. The prince admired Su Qingyao so much. He would wish to marry her immediately. How could he refuse the auspicious date 5 days later? Lian Yu passed on my words to Xiaoqi exactly. After Xiaoqi saw the note, his expression turned slightly cold. On his handsome face, a flash of hard-to-detect anger passed. He asked, what else did the princess say? Lian Yu respectfully answered, if the prince thinks this date is improper, he can go to discuss it with the princess in person. Originally, Xiaoqi and Su Qingyao had agreed on March 24th. That was also an auspicious day. However, March 28th was a secret anniversary of a death in his heart. This matter had never been mentioned to anyone. Did the princess really say this? Xiaoqi had a burning anger in his eyes. Did she know something? Impossible. This was the deepest secret hidden in his heart. No second person knew. But she just happened to pick this day. It was too much of a coincidence. Lian Yi nodded respectfully. Yes. Xiaoqi said coldly, change to another day. Lian Yi secretly admired in her heart. The princess truly predicted things like a god, but isn't the prince eager to marry the side consort into the manor? Why did he refuse such a good day like March 28th? Lian Yi reported truthfully, if the date is to be changed, the princess invites the prince to discuss it together in person. Xiaoqi's gaze suddenly became cold and sharp. No need. Dismissed. Lian Yi was so scared she quickly left, her heart full of confusion, not knowing which word had offended the prince. As soon as she turned around, she heard Xiaoqi order someone to bring wine. Lian Yi patted her chest in fear, and hurried back to my courtyard. She muttered to herself, truly inexplicable. Where exactly did I offend the prince? After Lian Yi returned, she informed me of the situation in the study one by one. She added, the prince was very angry. I saw guard Lin move several jars of wine in. The prince wants to drown his sorrows in wine, and live in a dream. After hearing this, I didn't care at all. Let him be. If he really wants to marry Su Qingyao, he will eventually come to find me. I remembered in my previous life, every March 28th, Xiaoqi would not spend the night with any consort, not even Su Qingyao. I didn't know what special meaning that day had, but for Xiaoqi, it was certainly unusual. Since it was inconvenient to move with a foot injury, I focused on practicing arm and neck strength. My other leg was still fine, so I could still persist in training. My endurance has always been very good. As a child, to practice dancing, I suffered countless hardships without giving up. The pain of leg stretching is 10,000 times more intense than a sprained foot. My performance of weakness in front of Xiaoqi today, I was very satisfied with it. It was enough to make him feel pity for me. My body was soft as a willow branch, capable of handling any high difficulty moves with ease. A low-level mistake like falling while dancing today, I would absolutely never make. But this time, it was specially prepared for Xiaoqi. I sat on the bed, and practiced according to the set method. I practiced for a full hour before stopping. My body became warm, my skin glowing with a flush like snow. Enchantingly beautiful, my arms were as slender as lotus roots. My perfect collarbones were like delicate crescent moons. Graceful and charming, my beauty was not simply being thin, but having curves in the right places, a well-proportioned and exquisite figure. Slender where it should be slender, and full where it should be full. Flawless. Just at this moment, Xiaoqi barged into my bedroom drunk. He bypassed the screen without care. Seeing the scene before him, a bit of panic flashed in his eyes. But he couldn't take his eyes off me. The woman before him was breathtakingly beautiful. I was shocked and lost my color. I hastily pulled up the thin quilt to cover myself. But the quilt was far too thin, making no difference whether I was covered or not. I bit my red lips, pretending to be angry, asking why he didn't knock before entering. His thoughts were interrupted by my voice. He pointed a finger at the plaque outside the door, then gestured to the bed and the room's furnishings. He slurred, isn't this the Lanua pavilion? Isn't this my bedchamber? All of this belongs to me. Why should I knock to enter my own bedroom? You, move aside, he said, and he headed straight toward the bed. Suddenly, Xiaoqi lunged at me. I made no move to avoid him. In the next second, a warmth filled his embrace. As he pinned me beneath him, I furrowed my delicate brows, filled with disbelief. So, this is what Xiaoqi is like when he's drunk. Who would have thought that this man, currently so sloppy, would one day become the iron-fisted ruler of the great Zhou dynasty, a cold and ruthless emperor? My fingers slowly drifted to his cheek, and I whispered, Your Highness, why did you drink so much? I didn't drink much. When he mentioned Qingyao, my heart felt a sudden chill, without even a ripple of emotion. I only smirked inwardly. Oh, Xiaoqi, your love for Su Qingyao is truly this deep? I said softly, Your Highness. Look closely, I am Lu Yunyan, not Miss Su. Xiaoqi suddenly seemed to remember something, and said something nonsensical. Then let it be tomorrow. I understood perfectly. He meant he would let Su Qingyao enter the manor tomorrow. But tomorrow is my third day after the wedding, a day so important for a woman's homecoming visit. Yet he hadn't given it a second thought. This was proof enough that he didn't care about me, his official wife, at all. Seeing Xiaoqi with his eyes closed, drunk to the point of collapse, I pondered silently. Just how much did he drink? He looks like he soaked in a vat of wine. A flash of coldness crossed my eyes. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. I called out toward the door. Hongxiu, Lianya, come in and give me a hand. My foot injury makes it hard to move. Hurry and help the prince onto the bed. Then bring some hot water to help him change. The maids pushed the door open and entered, and seeing our suggestive position, they bashfully closed their eyes. They worked together to settle Xiaoqi on the bed, and helped him remove his outer robe and shoes. I was exhausted and gasping for air, dressed only in my undergarments, looking extremely seductive. Unfortunately, Xiaoqi was sleeping like a pig, completely unresponsive. The maids gently wiped my body with a cloth, carefully applied essential oils, and massaged me softly before leaving. I dismissed the maids. and lay quietly beside Xiaoqi. Having been busy all day, I was already drained, and had no desire to seduce a drunkard. I soon fell into a deep sleep. It was a dreamless night, and we both slept soundly. Early the next morning, I woke up to find myself in Xiaoqi's arms. Recalling the incense I had used last night, I smirked triumphantly. Su Qingyao, you can keep waiting for the rest of your life. Just as I reached out to touch his nose, Xiaoqi suddenly moved. About to wake up, I quickly closed my eyes, pretending to be sound asleep. Who knew that Xiaoqi would turn over, pressing a long leg directly onto mine, hitting my injured ankle. I tried to push him away, but he wouldn't budge. I whined softly and pleaded, Your Highness, you are pressing on my foot. It hurts so much, please let me go. I am not Miss Su. Please look carefully. You're hurting me. Xiaoqi was awakened by my cries. He opened his eyes to see who he was holding, and flashes of breaking into the room last night returned, leaving him with a splitting headache. He couldn't remember anything after pouncing on me. Seeing our disheveled state, and our suggestive positions, he shoved me away violently. Immediately, the sound of whimpering filled the room. He turned his head to look, and saw me curled up delicately, shivering. My eyes filled with mist, as if I had suffered a great grievance. He looked struck by lightning, jumping out of bed suddenly, sobering up instantly and explaining incoherently. Nothing, why are you crying? I didn't do anything to you, did I? I sobbed pitifully, Your Highness. You crushed my foot. It was truly unbearable. That's why I couldn't help but cry. Today is my homecoming day, and with my foot injured like this, I fear my mother will worry. Xiaoqi sighed, feeling a sense of relief, so nothing had happened between us. I was only crying because my foot was hurt. Yesterday, he had already seen my frailty, unable to tolerate even the slightest bit of pain. He confirmed again, last night I was drunk. I don't remember much. My clothes. Your Highness was asleep like a log. No matter how much I called, you wouldn't wake up. You held me close, and kept calling for Qingyao. You must have mistaken me for Miss Su. I couldn't break free of your clothes, so I had the maids come in to help remove them. They were soaked in the smell of alcohol, so the maids took them away to be washed. I was truly exhausted, so I just fell asleep beside you. Don't worry, Your Highness. We slept separately. Slept soundly until dawn. Nothing happened at all. Everything is perfectly innocent. My face was filled with sincerity. Fearful of his misunderstanding, he suddenly added, I'm sorry. I had done nothing wrong. Yet he treated me this way. What I wanted was Xiaoqi's guilt. Holding his own wife, while shouting another woman's name. This debt. He would never be able to repay it in this lifetime. I said gently, no need to apologize. Your Highness is a gentleman. You didn't do anything inappropriate. It's just that today I must return home. My father and mother are surely waiting for us. Xiaoqi suddenly remembered. Today was the day he and Su Qingyao had arranged for her to join the household. Last night he came to discuss this very matter, even promising to go and fetch her himself. Xiaoqi lowered his voice, tentatively asking, must you return home? With tear tracks still on my face, I said earnestly, for a woman who is married, the homecoming visit is of the utmost importance. If a husband does not accompany his wife, in the future, the woman will have no standing, either in the husband's house or her own family's. It would be a disgrace to live on. Is it really that serious? He wasn't entirely familiar with these rules. I nodded heavily, yes. Your Highness, I said I would not stand in the way of you and Miss Su. I only ask that you leave me a shred of dignity in the matter. I only need a little bit of your time. Seeing my small face turn deep red, Xiaoqi explained, I was only worried about your foot, that you wouldn't be able to move about easily. I looked away, deliberately pretending to be angry. Even if my foot were broken, I would crawl to the Lu Manor. Xiaoqi sighed helplessly, very well, I will do as you ask. He truly didn't understand why I had suddenly become angry. My mood changed incredibly fast. I immediately wiped away the tears, limped toward him, and reached for his arm. My eyes were filled with anticipation. Your Highness, do you mean you will accompany me back home to visit my parents? If you can come along, they will be overjoyed. Though the tear tracks on my face hadn't dried, I was already beaming. My perfect figure was like a delicately crafted piece of art. My snow-white skin even more enchanting in the morning light. Xiaoqi was lost in a moment of distraction, unable to help being captivated. He nodded instinctively. I will go with you. I hurriedly curtsied, thank you, Your Highness. Then I shouted loudly, Hongxiu, Lianya, Nurse Su, prepare an extra breakfast, and bring more hot water for us to dress. We are returning to the Lu Manor today. I truly miss my father and mother. Mentioning the reunion with my parents, my face was filled with smiles, my eyes shimmering and brilliant, radiating an aura of happiness, as lively as a bird in the forest. As I spoke, the maids filed in, realizing I was only in my undergarments. A bashful blush spread across my face. I glanced at Xiaoqi, then quickly hid behind the screen. Your Highness, please dress first. I will be ready soon. Behind the screen. My waist-length hair fell like a waterfall. My silhouette enchanting, outlining a perfect frame. Xiaoqi was slightly distracted as he watched, only coming to his senses when he heard my voice, feeling his face burn red. At this moment, Nurse Su stepped forward, and the maids held several robes in their hands. Nurse Su asked, "Your Highness, which one will you wear today?" Xiaoqi pointed casually, choosing a robe of electric blue. Nurse Su signaled the maids, who then withdrew, choosing a light blue long-sleeved dress for me. When we appeared before each other, we both froze for a moment. I was wearing a light blue high-waisted trailing skirt, with pale jasmine patterns subtly embroidered on the cuffs. My jet black hair was styled in an exquisite knot, my figure elegant and graceful, the matching tassel at my waist swaying in the wind, creating ripples of movement. Xiaoqi wore a silk robe of electric blue, the collar and cuffs embroidered with silver cloud patterns, cinched at the waist with a wide matching belt, adorned with a moon-white jade pendant. His hair was held up by a jade-inlaid silver crown, and he wore black boots with gold-threaded patterns. He was already handsome, but this attire made him appear extraordinary, standing like a jade tree in the breeze. Nurse Su was clever, arranging the prince and princess's breakfast in the garden pavilion. The morning sun was just rising, and wisps of clouds scattered down, the two of them standing side by side in the pavilion, like an immortal couple. Lianya brought over the delicate breakfast, purposefully walking between them. She said, Your Highness, please be seated." She watched them closely, thinking to herself, "And you said you didn't like her? A couple this stunning is truly a match made in heaven." Xiaoqi avoided her gaze, walking straight toward the pavilion. He was indeed hungry. Last night he only drank wine, hardly touching the dinner prepared by the butler. The food on the table emitted a subtle fragrance, instantly awakening his appetite, and his stomach rumbled, making him feel even more famished. He swallowed his saliva. Nurse Su stepped forward to introduce, "I have prepared for the princess osmanthus cake steamed in flour. The texture is soft and sticky, and swallow's nest porridge with silver threads. Thick but not greasy, silky when it enters the mouth, nourishing the body and the heart. There is also a small piece of rose pastry, and milk almond crisps, which are the princess's favorites. These have also been prepared for the prince." Xiaoqi looked where Nurse Su pointed, each item exquisite and small, with only 2 pieces on each plate. He pondered silently, "Does Lu Yunyan really only eat 1 piece of each?" He sat down slowly, and I elegantly sat beside him, saying gently, "Your Highness, please enjoy." Having said that, I remained silent. Xiaoqi gestured with his hands, noticing small forks, small spoons, chopsticks, and a soup ladle. The spoons were small and exquisite. Very cute. Xiaoqi reached for the familiar chopsticks. I picked up the small spoon, chewing slowly, taking 10 bites just to finish a small piece of cake. Yet, even the way I ate was breathtakingly beautiful. Xiaoqi watched my delicate demeanor, and to his surprise, didn't find it annoying. A thought suddenly crossed his mind. Daughters raised in scholarly families, like the Lu family, make wives that at least bring a sense of dignity. Breakfast lasted for half an hour. The two of us didn't exchange a word the entire time. By the end, Xiaoqi felt like he hadn't had enough, not feeling full, but feeling too embarrassed to ask for more. The food from the Lu house was truly exquisite, appealing in color, fragrance, and taste, leaving one longing for more. The news that the prince would accompany the princess home spread quickly throughout the manor. Steward Chen hurried to the storehouse to pick out homecoming gifts. Xiaoqi cast a glance, and asked, "Are these all to be sent to the Lu manor?" The butler replied respectfully, "Yes, Your Highness." Xiaoqi frowned slightly. Is the homecoming visit truly so important that it requires such a grand production? Steward Chen explained at length. Simply put, a new husband accompanying his bride, carrying gifts to pay respects to the parents, is an essential ritual. The quality of the homecoming gifts directly reflects whether the young lady's marriage is satisfying, and whether she is valued by her husband. Ordinary families take this very seriously, and wealthy families care even more about their dignity. However, given your noble status, naturally you don't need to perform major rites for the Lu family. Your Highness going in person is already the Lu family's supreme honor. Xiaoqi pondered for a moment, glancing back at the gifts Steward Chen had prepared, and said, "Go to the storehouse and get more things. Steward Chen, have someone find out who all is in the princess's family, and what their individual interests are. According to their preferences, select a gift for each person." The butler was stunned. "Yes, I will go do that at once." Just as he turned, Xiaoqi added faintly, "Give an extra gift to each one. Does this prince look like he cannot afford it?" Although the prince's residence isn't highly regarded by the emperor, as a prince, he possessed quite a lot of assets. The butler shook his head. "You can afford it. You can afford it. I will go make the arrangements." Xiaoqi had slept in my room for 2 nights in a row, The butler mistakenly thought he doted on this princess, so he selected only top-tier goods for the gifts. The mansion was located on Willow Street in the north of the city. Father Lu Huai worked as a tutor in the Imperial Academy, one of many such tutors. He was a gifted teacher, with outstanding morals, serving for many years, often commended as an excellent teacher, respected by many. Yet, he never fought for position, missing out on many opportunities for promotion, remaining in the Imperial Academy to teach princes and princesses, as well as the children of government officials, that a family like this could be chosen by the empress to let their daughter become the prince's wife, in the eyes of others, was like the Lu family burning incense for 8 lifetimes. To earn such luck, many were envious, believing the Lu family had just had a stroke of luck, climbing into the royal family. Today was the day of my homecoming visit. Father specifically took a day of leave. Mother hadn't slept a wink since midnight, busy in the kitchen the whole time. My older sister Lu Rume and brother-in-law had already arrived at the mansion. Everyone in the Lu household feared offending the prince, all dressed in their finest, waiting expectantly, until a young servant in the mansion ran over in a rush to report, "They have arrived. The prince's carriage procession is at the alley entrance. There are three carriages." Father Lu Huai, with his wife and family, hurried to the gate to welcome them. From afar, they could see the prince's motorcade slowly approaching, impressive and grand. The carriage stopped before the mansion, and Steward Chen stepped forward to greet them, then ordered the guards to unload the homecoming gifts. Beside the other luxurious carriage, Xiaoqi stepped down first, and I slowly emerged, aided by a maid. Mother saw the jade-like appearance of her son-in-law, smiling so wide she couldn't close her mouth, briefly lost in a trance. Father pulled her, signaling for the Lu family to bow. Your subject's family greets the prince and princess. Seeing my parents bow to me, my eyes reddened. I knew this was royal etiquette, and accepted it calmly. Xiaoqi saw I was about to cry and said, "Father-in-law, mother-in-law, please rise." The Lu family stood up. The next second, Xiaoqi suddenly took me from the maid, picked me up in his arms, explaining, "The princess sprained her foot yesterday. She has trouble moving. I will carry her inside." I had thought he might help me down from the carriage, but I never expected he would call my parents father-in-law and mother-in-law. I was stunned for a moment, remembering my previous life, where he couldn't even be bothered to see my parents once. The Lu family gained glory through me, yet were ostracized by the world for years, and my family suffered deeply as a result. All of this was because the man I married didn't love me. Then I heard Xiaoqi ask my father Lu Huai, "Father-in-law, is there a place where she can rest? The princess's foot injury makes it hard to stand for long." Father glanced at my leg, full of worry, but didn't dare step forward to inspect it. "Please, come into the main hall." I smiled and comforted him. "Father, don't worry. The prince is making a big deal out of it. I am actually quite alright." Father glared at me, his eyes full of heartache. He originally wanted to ask us to walk around, but seeing my foot injury, he changed his mind. "Dinner will be served soon. Yan, stay with the prince. I will go see your mother and sister." Xiaoqi nodded his permission, carrying me all the way to the main hall, setting me on a chair. I whispered, "Thank you, your highness." Xiaoqi raised an eyebrow at me, leaning close to my ear to whisper, "This should be dignified enough, right?" My cheeks flushed red. I lowered my head to keep up the appearance of a loving couple, my pretty face tinged with bashfulness, as if we were whispering sweet nothings. I thanked him again. "Yes. Thank you, your highness. Thank you so much." Having only known each other for 3 days, Xiaoqi had already heard me say thank you countless times. He thought to himself, could it be that she is satisfied with just this? Just then, my fourth brother, Lu Ziyuan, came walking toward us, all smiles. Ziyuan greets the prince, my brother-in-law, and third sister. "Thank you, third brother-in-law, for the gifts." He then bowed to Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi paused. The boy before him was only 13 or 14, his features somewhat similar to mine, his smile uninhibited, his appearance quite striking. He replied somewhat awkwardly, "There's no need to pay him any mind." Lu Ziyuan's eyes were shining with brilliance, clearly loving this gift to the extreme. An inkstone from the Xian studio, one that money can't necessarily buy. I will definitely cherish this well. Xiaoqi, seeing that the gift he prepared was so genuinely appreciated, felt a flicker of joy in his heart. My older sister, Lu Rume, also came personally, inviting us to proceed to dinner, and expressed her gratitude to Xiaoqi, kindly addressing him as brother-in-law. The gift she received was a set of precious jewelry from Kuyukshuan. My older sister's beauty was already remarkable. Both she and I inherited our mother Feng Jingyuan's looks. My older sister is now 24, already a mother of 2, yet her figure remains slender, adding even more charm. Xiaoqi not only prepared jewelry for my sister, but for her 2 children as well. Each received the latest toys. These were all items Steward Chen had urgently sent someone to purchase in the market. My sister's husband, Jin Yu, is a businessman. Xiaoqi gifted him a golden abacus. The Jin family was already well off, not lacking in wealth, but a gift from the prince carried extraordinary meaning. So Jin Yu naturally loved it dearly. Seeing me married off so well, and treated so considerately by my husband, Mother wept with joy. I hugged Mother and comforted her. Daughter is doing just fine now. Why are you crying again, Mother? Mother's tears wouldn't stop flowing. Mother is truly happy. Yan Yan has married a wonderful man. Mother can finally rest easy. My older sister was sincerely happy for me. Whispering, originally, I was worried that third sister would be wronged after marrying into the Zhao prince's manor. Now it seems the prince is not only talented and handsome, but also so attentive. Mother is right. Third sister has truly married the right person. I lowered my head to sip my soup, feigning shyness, while secretly sneering to myself. How could they possibly know? In my previous life, I not only lacked such a dignified homecoming ceremony, but I didn't even get a single glance from Xiaoqi. He personally welcomed Su Qingyao into the manor. Su Qingyao wearing bright red wedding attire, while I was invited to drink the so-called mother-in-law tea, subjected to everyone's finger-pointing and humiliation, becoming the biggest laughingstock in all of Xingjin City. Watching them being all loving and intimate, my heart felt as if it were being torn by knives. The feast was divided into 2 tables, men and women sitting separately, the middle, separated by a 4-season screen embroidered with plum, orchid, bamboo, and chrysanthemum. Xiaoqi happened to sit back-to-back with me. He heard my mother sobbing and muttered to himself, this habit of Lu Yanyan crying so easily must be inherited from her mother. Looking at it, her mother is also a gentle and weak person. Father, Lu Huai, was also very happy, and after drinking a few cups of wine, he began to ramble endlessly about the principles of conduct. Your Highness is now the Yin of Jinzhou. This position is of great importance, closely linked to the lives of the common people, intimately connected. Mother, Feng Jingyuan, shouted in a sharp voice from the other side of the screen. Oh, Lu Huai. You've had too much to drink, haven't you? You're lecturing again. Our son-in-law is a prince. Doesn't he understand these principles better than you? Are you going to let people eat in peace or not? Father was silenced instantly. Raising his glass to Xiaoqi, your subject toasts the prince. Xiaoqi was both startled and amused, never expecting that Lu Huai, a professor at the Imperial College, would be henpecked at home, and even less expecting my mother to have such a fiery temper. He raised his glass, sipping the wine to hide his awkwardness. My 4th brother, Lu Ziyuan, hadn't drunk any wine yet, and seeing this, hastily changed the subject. Your Highness, brother-in-law, don't just drink. Eat some more food. This was all cooked by mother herself. Every dish is her specialty. Jinyu also chimed in, mother-in-law's cooking really is excellent. Father, after being scolded by mother, didn't dare make a sound, obediently keeping his head down to eat. That appearance was a far cry from the dignified man he was at school. The Lu family was full of joy and harmony. Xiaoqi looked at this scene before him. A sense of bitterness actually stirred in his heart. He looked at the mountain of delicacies in his bowl, and began to eat heartily without any complaint. These dishes were all placed in his bowl by Jinyu using communal chopsticks. Jinyu saw that the Prince of Zhao actually didn't look down on the food from his home, and was even eating it with such relish, feeling flattered and honored to be able to sit and drink at the same table as the Prince of Zhao, while the prince was also his brother-in-law. This was simply an immense glory. Xiaoqi had never had such a relaxed and comfortable moment. In his joy, he drank a few more cups of wine. As for the Su household side, Xiaoqi had already sent a message via a trusted messenger, promising that he would marry Su Qingyao in the coming days, and vowed that the wedding would be held grandly, never letting her be wronged in the slightest. He felt that my being so understanding was already a massive compromise. Su Qingyao was broad-minded, and surely she would understand. Back at the Su estate, Su Qingyao heard the news that the Prince of Zhao was accompanying his new bride back to her maternal home, and her entire body seemed to freeze. Muttering to herself, how regrettable, he clearly promised me. Why would he go to the Lu estate? He clearly doesn't care about Lu Yanyan, and even promised to pick me up today. On the bed, lay the wedding dress she had chosen with Xiaoqi. According to the rules, a concubine entering the household can only wear pink wedding attire, but Xiaoqi insisted on giving her the most magnificent wedding outfit in all of Xingjin City, and the grandest of weddings, so he spent a fortune to custom-make this bright red wedding dress. Her maid, Yinxing, said with heartache, this is already the 2nd time the prince has broken his word. Today was supposed to be the day the young lady got married. How could he just casually send a guard to say the wedding was to be postponed, without even saying until when? My young lady is the legitimate daughter of a general's mansion. It's already humiliating enough to go from a primary wife to a concubine. How could the prince treat you like this? That Lu Yanyan is just the daughter of a mere professor. How can she be compared to you? Su Qingyao roared at the maid, stop talking. Get out. The maid dared not say more, and withdrew alone. In order to vent her young lady's anger, she took it upon herself to inform concubine Su of this matter, hoping that her ladyship could stand up for her. Su Qingyao felt deep sorrow. With tears streaming down her face, she sat upright in front of the bronze mirror, staring intently at her own reflection. She considered her appearance outstanding, and by no means inferior to the fragile sheltered ladies in Xingjin City. And He dislikes women who are pretentious and fake. But in her mind, the images of Xiao Qi and me clarifying things kept replaying. He had hurriedly pulled me into his arms, his eyes full of admiration and appreciation. He had never looked at her with such eyes before. She touched the exquisite makeup on her face, muttering to herself, "Is Lu Yanyan really that beautiful? Can she be more beautiful than me? Even if she is beautiful, He will never like her. I should trust He. He will definitely be amazed when he sees me like this. He just hasn't seen me in my wedding dress yet. Today I must enter the Zhao prince's manor. On the day Lu Yanyan returns home, and never give them another chance to be alone. The person He loves is me, Su Qingyao, not Lu Yanyan." She wiped away her tears to encourage herself, full of confidence as she said. Su Qingyao then summoned a Su household guard, whispering into his ear, "Go find the Prince of Zhao, and say that today he will let Lu Yanyan see with her own eyes how much Xiao Qi loves her." Meanwhile, inside the imperial palace, concubine Su received the message from the maid Yingxing, and was furious. "I never expected Lu Yanyan to be so cunning, to be able to make the Prince of Zhao disregard Qingyao for her sake, leaving her waiting alone. No, this palace must go and plead with the emperor again." Saying this, concubine Su dressed up elaborately, and headed straight for the emperor's Qianqing palace. Stepping into the magnificent, gold-adorned palace, concubine Su walked with light steps, resembling a blooming, delicate flower. She wore gorgeous, gauzy clothing, as light as mist, as elegant as a fairy, bowing gracefully. "Your subject greets your majesty," the emperor said in a gentle tone. "Qing is here. There are no outsiders here. Please, rise." Concubine Su rose gracefully. "I specifically made some new pastries for your majesty. Please, have a taste, your majesty," the emperor replied warmly. "You have been so thoughtful. It must have been hard work to make these for me. You taste one first." Concubine Su's face was as radiant as a peach blossom, smiling as she took a bite, acting incredibly shy. Only then did the emperor casually taste 2 pieces, praising, "Indeed, it's soft, glutinous, and sweet." The concubine's culinary skills have improved again. Her jade arms suddenly draped around the emperor's neck, whispering softly, "Your majesty is busy with state affairs. It has been a long time since you visited my Luanfeng palace. Your subject has missed your majesty dearly." She knew that these past few nights, the emperor had been spending time with the newly arrived beauty Wang. The emperor understood her implication, putting his arm around her waist. Although Su Qingqing was much older than beauty Wang, she still retained her charms, possessing a unique, mature allure. Soon, the emperor pulled her into his embrace, lost in a boundless, tender world. In his arms, Su Qingqing had eyes as seductive as silk, her slender fingers lightly brushing the emperor's chest, softly saying, "Your majesty has also met the child, who followed his parents to the frontier when he was young, and suffered quite a bit. He only returned to Xingjin City 3 years ago. He is now 17 years old, at the age for marriage. As his aunt, I naturally want to be more attentive to his affairs." The emperor feigned ignorance, referring to the matter concubine Su had requested earlier, the bestowal of marriage, but said calmly, "The beloved daughter of General Su is of such a noble family. Naturally, we cannot be careless. Which young man has the concubine taken a fancy to? Let us start planning." "Your majesty," concubine Su said coquettishly, turning her face away, feigning anger. "Your majesty is truly forgetful." Not taking this concubine's request to heart at all. Within the harem, the more the emperor favored a certain concubine, the more prominent her family would become in the imperial court. This was an unspoken rule that needed no explanation. Clearly, in the emperor's heart, concubine Su could neither be too indulged, nor too neglected. The emperor lifted her chin, his eyes still showing a sense of wanting more. Those beauties who just entered the palace, compared to the concubine, they are, after all, a bit too immature. The concubine has come today. I fear the intent is not just about the wine. I was just being impatient. It's here. Concubine Su immediately changed into a wronged expression. "Your subject would never dare. I truly missed your majesty. Qingyao's father and mother are both in the frontier. If she were to get married, I naturally hope she can do so with great splendor." The emperor's eyes flickered, understanding in his heart. Whether it's a wife or a concubine, whether it's splendid or not, it was all just a matter of a word from him. Concubine Su continued to beg, "Your majesty, the matter I mentioned to you last time. Qingyao has her heart set on the Prince of Zhao. Please, grant a decree, granting Qingyao as a concubine to the Prince of Zhao. Grant them their wish and make a perfect pair." Consider it as doing this concubine a small favor. The first time concubine Su asked, it was for the position of primary wife. This time she stepped back and requested the position of concubine. The emperor, mindful of the Su family's influence, finally relented. Since that is the case, let the swords be sharpened for a few days. The concubine can go ahead and make the arrangements. Your subject thanks your majesty for your grace. Concubine Su was overjoyed. Choosing a day is not as good as the day itself. Today happens to be a good day for a wedding. I will go handle it right now. Having achieved her purpose, she respectfully bowed to the emperor and hurried out of the Qianqing palace. The emperor knew of the Su family's schemes and summoned Steward Chow. Where has the Prince of Zhao gone today? Your Majesty, today is the day the prince and princess return home. The prince should be accompanying the princess to the Lu estate. Steward Chow replied respectfully. The emperor's eyes flashed with a hint of something unusual. Murmuring, this son of mine actually has some ability. Steward Chow dared not respond, hastily ordering his apprentice, Wu Xin, to bring washing supplies, to personally attend to the emperor's washing. Wu Xin was 17 years old, clever and agile, and enjoyed Steward Chow's deep trust. Usually, except when the emperor was present, Steward Chow would do things himself, but at other times, he would let reliable people like Wu Xin do the work. The matter of concubine Su begging for the favor, Wu Xin also silently noted in his heart. This matter naturally could not escape Empress Cheng's eyes. She said coldly, going to the Lu estate today. That is what's in accordance with the rules. The emperor is truly confused. Su Qingqing just flirted a little, and the emperor even disregarded etiquette. Go. Just have the Minister of Rites go and lecture Su Qingqing on etiquette. A concubine deserves such a grand marriage? Nanny, she hastily advised, your ladyship, please calm your anger. The Minister of Rites, going there now, might only end up just joining in the fun and drinking wedding wine. If the matter blows up, it will ultimately be detrimental to our prince. It would only let outsiders watch the Prince of Zhao's matter make a fool of itself. If your ladyship adds more trouble for the prince, and makes the prince unhappy, he will still resent you. Since your ladyship has already entrusted this matter to the prince, let him handle it, and let it be for now. Since that Miss Su wants to show off, let her go ahead and do so. Empress Qing was persuaded. She knew well that if she insisted on pursuing it, in the end, the only one who would lose face would be her own son. Caught in a dilemma, she only felt as if her throat was being strangled, filled with stifled anger. Who told her son to go and fall in love with a woman like that? On the other side, a guard from the Su mansion arrived at the gates of the Lu mansion, calling out loudly, I am from General Su's mansion south of the city. I have urgent business to see the Prince of Zhao. There is a letter here. That must be delivered to him personally. Who are you? Which Su family? Today there is a joyous event in our home. My master gave orders. No outside guests. The gatekeeper finished speaking and was about to close the door. The guard said with some arrogance, General Su's mansion south of the city. This matter concerns the Prince of Zhao. It cannot be delayed. The gatekeeper, named Lu Huan, had been taken in by the Lu mansion since childhood, could read and write, and hated nothing more than people putting on airs, his nature being somewhat stubborn as well. He only knew that today is the happy day for the third young lady's return home, and no one is allowed to disturb it. Hearing that the other party was from General Su's mansion south of the city, he suddenly remembered. This was the very place that he and Sister Lianya had been to before, and at that time he heard Sister Lianya mutter, Miss Su is actually the Prince of Zhao's lover. Could it really be Miss Su, who wants to send a letter to the Prince of Zhao? He understood. Muttering to himself, oh no. Lu Huan first smiled at the guard, saying, since you are looking for the prince, I will go report it. Please wait a moment. Does the letter in your hand need me to deliver it on your behalf? No need, I must deliver it into the prince's hands myself. The guard replied. This is what the young lady specially ordered. Lu Huan ran to my side as quickly as he could, whispering, third young lady. Someone from General Su's mansion has come to the door, saying they have urgent business to see the prince, and brought a letter, insisting on personally delivering it to the prince. I smiled calmly, thinking to myself, Su Qingyao really can't sit still, actually sending someone directly to the door. Is she really that eager to marry Xiaoqi? In my previous life, she married into the Zhao prince's manor as a concubine with great splendor, becoming the apple of Xiaoqi's eye. In this life, Xiaoqi has been late in coming to fetch her, and she's already unable to hold back and wants to cause trouble. At this moment, Hongshou also hurried in, respectfully saying, Princess, according to reports from our informants, Su Qingyao has already packed her bags and gone to the 10-mile pavilion outside the city. I looked calm, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips, acting out quite the play, aren't they? Just then, Lianya also hurried in, lowering her voice, Princess, bad news. Concubine Su has received the imperial decree granting the marriage, and has already left the palace. My heart skipped a beat, remembering that in my previous life, concubine Su did not interfere in this matter. Xiaoqi and Su Qingyao were deeply in love. And although the wedding was held grandly, it did not receive an imperial decree. And after Su Qingyao entered the manor, the emperor and empress did not acknowledge her, so she naturally could not enter the royal ancestral temple. It wasn't until Xiaoqi ascended the throne that he disregarded convention and insisted on making her queen. In this life, she has actually gained the emperor's recognition. That is vastly different. They have caught me off guard. Whether it's because my rebirth caused a butterfly effect, or some other reason. In this life, I absolutely cannot let Su Qingyao marry into the Zhao prince's manor in such splendor. Hongshou asked, the prince is already drunk now. Should I add something more to the wine? Let him sleep until dawn. If Su Qingyao wants to leave, let her leave. The further the better. If the prince doesn't go after her, let's see what she can do. I immediately stopped her. No. The apple of the prince's eye is about to leave. If he doesn't go after her, others will definitely say I, the princess, am the one interfering. Besides, how could she be willing to walk away from the wealth and glory within her grasp? Rather than letting them be tangled and obsessed, always thinking of each other, it's better to let them have a passionate love affair. Life is short. One shouldn't leave any regrets. I absolutely cannot give Xiaoqi any excuse to settle scores later. On the contrary, I want to make him feel grateful to me, and even deeply ashamed. Hongshou listened to her mistress. 3 lines of concern forming on her forehead. Truly unable to understand her mistress's way of thinking. Her husband is going to find another woman. And she doesn't stop him. Instead, she's so understanding. This is nothing like what a wife should say. Ignoring my leg injury, I walked outside, asking, where's the prince settled for his rest? Lianya and Hongshou quickly reached out to help prepare 2 more fast horses for the carriage. I continued, let's go. Arriving at the guest room in the east garden, I quickly led the Su household guard to Xiaoqi, and then turned and withdrew. Xiaoqi was indeed dead drunk, compounded by his hangover from the night before, and at this moment, was exhausted and lethargic. The guard stepped forward and said respectfully, Your Highness, my young lady asked the servant to ensure I deliver this letter to you personally. Xiaoqi unfolded the letter in a daze, only to see it written, He. The letter read, like mist before my eyes. I have left, finish the letter. Xiaoqi's face turned deathly pale, his heart feeling as though it had been hollowed out. Qingyao was going to leave him forever. To him, this was no different from a bolt from the blue. At this moment, I walked in holding a bowl of sobering soup and said softly, Your Highness, please drink this soup to sober up. Xiaoqi's eyes were cold and piercing, a biting chill radiating from his entire being, devoid of any warmth. He suddenly stood up, sweeping his hand and knocking the bowl from mine. The freshly brewed soup was still warm, splashing onto the back of my smooth, fair hand, instantly turning it bright red. I quickly hid my hand behind my back, forcing myself to endure the pain, and said softly, It was my carelessness, I didn't hold it steady. Hongshou, bring another bowl. Hongshou was quick to act, soon returning with another bowl of sobering soup. Clutching my red, swollen hand, I whispered, Give it directly to the prince. Xiaoqi had originally meant to lose his temper, but seeing me like this, he only glanced at my sleeve and said coldly, You return to the manor alone. I have matters to attend to. With that, he strode out of the room. I hurriedly chased after him, my brows furrowed with concern. Your Highness, if you have an urgent matter, the Lu mansion has 2 fine horses. Perhaps they can be of use to you. I whispered to myself. I must find Su Qingyao before concubine Su does. Xiaoqi turned a deaf ear, his pace becoming increasingly hurried. The guard, Lingfeng, hurried to keep up, asking in confusion, Your Highness, what has happened? Why are you in such a rush? Find 2 fast horses immediately to follow me out of the city. Xiaoqi did not explain, having only one thought in mind. Qingyao has left for the frontier. He must catch up to her. He absolutely cannot let her leave. Lingfeng was confused, turning to look at me. Seeing that I was also filled with anxiety, he reminded him, Your Highness, the princess just said, the Lu mansion has fast horses. Xiaoqi paused, and commanded, Let's go. After Xiaoqi left, my expression returned to normal. I uncovered my scalded hand to take a look, my eyes alluring, totally indifferent to the pain. Hongshou said pityingly, Your Highness, he went too far. How could he take his anger out on you? This has nothing to do with you at all. Your hand is all burned red. My eyes remained calm. It's fine, a little ointment will fix it. Lianya added indignantly, the way the prince acted just now. It was as if the sky was falling. Was it really necessary to be so anxious? The prince is a man who loves and hates deeply. The apple of his eye is leaving. It is only human nature to be anxious. I felt nothing in my heart, having long since let go of my feelings for him. Seeing such an impulsive Xiaoqi, I only found it laughable. Immediately after, I ordered, We shall go to bid farewell to my father and mother, and return to the Zhao prince's manor at once. The 2 maids looked at each other, filled with confusion. Why would the young lady marry the Zhao prince, when she clearly doesn't like him? Perhaps the young lady isn't concerned with romance, but with the fate of the nation. They truly couldn't understand why a young lady in the prime of her life wouldn't long for a beautiful love story. They could only speculate. When I emerged from the Lu mansion, the day was already late. I said to Lianya, send word to Tan Wanqing. The vengeance for his sister can be taken today. As long as he is satisfied, any means are acceptable. Also, tell the others to withdraw all our spies from the Su mansion. Lianya's eyes lit up instantly, exclaiming, are we really acting ahead of schedule? That corrupt official deserved to die long ago. I remained non-committal. In this life, Su Qingyao and Shao Qi will both become stepping stones to my rise to power. There was a small earth god temple near the 10-mile pavilion outside the city. It was here that Shao Qi caught up to Su Qingyao. The two were deeply in love. And Su Qingyao suggested, Qi, since we cannot be married in the light of day, why not bow to the earth god? He is revered by all. Worshipping him is surely not wrong. Shao Qi was initially hesitant, but he couldn't resist Su Qingyao's persistent coaxing. And thinking of how he had failed her today, his heart was filled with guilt. When he first saw her, the joy of regaining what was lost made her a treasure to him. And in the end, he agreed to marry her at the temple. After the ceremony, Su Qingyao nestled in his arms, overjoyed. Qi, today is the happiest and most free day of my life. Since we have already bowed to heaven and earth, we are truly husband and wife. I am your wife. How wonderful. He couldn't give her the status of a legitimate wife, and now that they had married in secret, he knew it violated tradition. But Su Qingyao had a free-spirited nature, and didn't care for such formalities, so he followed her wishes. He looked at her with pure indulgence, secretly vowing that as long as it didn't violate morals or ethics, he would fulfill any request Qingyao made. Su Qingyao held on to his waist. Her cheeks flushed red. If this were their home, wouldn't the next step be? Shao Qi suddenly remembered Lu Huai's warning at the banquet. His heart skipped a beat, and he pushed her away, saying coldly, Qingyao, we must return. Lu Yingyan has already agreed. Hearing the name Lu Yingyan, a flash of displeasure appeared in Su Qingyao's eyes. Interrupting him, tell me, am I your wife? Shao Qi was hesitant, my tear-streaked face suddenly flashing across his mind. Saying softly, Qingyao, I cannot promise things I cannot do. The emperor's decree cannot be defied. She is already the Zhao princess. This was an unchangeable fact. So what if she is the Zhao princess? What does the emperor's marriage decree matter? I only want to be your wife. We have already bowed to heaven and earth. Doesn't that count for anything? Su Qingyao hugged his waist again. Agreedly, I met you first. Why is the world so unfair? Why is it her who got to marry you first? Shao Qi froze. The one he clearly loved was Qingyao. Yet he had to marry Lu Yingyan. This was indeed unfair to Qingyao, and he couldn't even give her a proper wedding. His heart filled with guilt. Qingyao, I'm sorry. I don't want you to say sorry. I just want you to love me. Love me enough. Su Qingyao looked up at him. From now on, she will only be the nominal Zhao princess, while I am the only wife in your heart, okay? Promise me. You will never love her. Okay, Shao Qi nodded, his eyes deep as a cold pool. Unfathomable. Su Qingyao was always bothered by the fact that I became the Zhao princess, even starting to let her imagination run wild. If she finds out we are married, she will certainly be displeased, and she will definitely cause trouble. Love is selfish, and cannot be shared. No, she won't be unhappy, Shao Qi replied firmly. How can you be so sure? Su Qingyao pouted, relentless. Shao Qi couldn't explain it. If Lu Yingyan wanted to stop us, she wouldn't have brought the Su family people to trample on her. Afraid that saying more would lead to more mistakes, and cause Qingyao to think even more. At this moment, a few passing travelers saw this scene, walking into the temple, smiling and offering congratulations. Congratulations to you both on your union. Could we perhaps trouble you for a wedding drink? But the environment here was too simple. The crowd offered a few polite blessings, and hurriedly left. The news of someone getting married at the Earth God Temple outside the city spread quickly across the capital. The man was graceful and elegant, a person of talent. The woman was dressed in a bright red wedding dress, radiating wealth. Why would they choose to marry in an Earth God temple? Only those without parents would worship the Earth God, right? The man was dressed in fine clothes. It doesn't look like he doesn't have a family. If he didn't dare bring the woman home to meet his parents, could she be a mistress? Even for a mistress, one cannot marry at an Earth God temple. This is truly inappropriate. To worship an Earth God instead of their own parents. It's practically cursing one's parents to die early. How unfilial. The Great Zhou Kingdom puts filial piety first. Pan Taifu held a first-rank official position, a famous scholar of the dynasty. The great scholar, not sure why. This news also reached Pan Taifu, who was teaching. He heard that someone dared to marry at an Earth God temple. Furious. What kind of conduct is this? He said that if this person was a scholar, He had wasted his time studying the sages. Pan Taifu decided to record this as a negative example, to teach future scholars about propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. With this incident alone, he could talk endlessly for a month, and would often bring it up as an example. Meanwhile, outside the Earth God Temple, the guard Lingfeng quietly hid his sword, pretending not to know the two people inside. He felt extremely ashamed, but his fire for gossip burned bright, pretending to be a passerby, pricking up his ears, listening to people passing by criticizing his master. After hearing everyone's discussions, he muttered to himself in secret, "What kind of mess is this? How could the 10th young lady drag the master to get married in an Earth God temple? So reckless. Where does that put the princess in the manor? She was clearly doing it on purpose. How could the prince not see it? And looking at his attitude, he probably doesn't even want to offer tea to the grandmother. It's completely unreasonable." Yinqing squatted obediently to the side. Anyway, it was just acting for others to see. She didn't care much. Her heart and eyes were all on Lingfeng. Lingfeng noticed her gaze, and hurriedly looked away, feeling very uncomfortable, cold and chilly. Concubine Su personally sent an honor guard to the Su mansion. She wanted Qingyao to enter the Zhao prince's manor, in high style today. As long as Xiaoqi's heart was with Qingyao still had a chance to become the mistress of the manor, provided that she had to become Xiaoqi's woman properly. Concubine Su entered the Su mansion dressed in her finery, but didn't see Su Qingyao. Asking the guards, she learned Su Qingyao had already packed her bags and left for outside the city. In the afternoon, Xiaoqi brought Su Qingyao back to the city, seeing her dressed in a bright red wedding dress, her face like a peach blossom. They had 3 horses together. Lingfeng took one. Su Qingyao and Xiaoqi shared one, being close and intimate. Yinqing took one. Su Qingyao's wedding dress was too eye-catching. Passers-by on the road kept turning to look. The sound of their discussions endless. In broad daylight, which young master stole a bride? Don't you see the bride smiling sweeter than a flower? Doesn't look like a stealing. It's clearly an elopement. Xiaoqi had excellent hearing. Hearing it all very clearly, his expression becoming increasingly icy, his body becoming stiff. Su Qingyao's hand around his waist was simply too tight. When leaving the city to catch up with Su Qingyao as quickly as possible, he had resolutely chosen to ride a horse. The Lu mansion's horses were indeed fast steeds, and it didn't take long to find her at the Earth God temple outside the city, but without a carriage to travel in. It was even more awkward after entering the city. He gave Lingfeng a look, to tell him to find a carriage. Lingfeng had been trying to avoid Yinqing's gaze, and since the Lu mansion's horse was indeed exceptional, he couldn't help but speed up. Unfortunately, one cannot gallop after entering the city. He could only patiently follow behind, only wishing to be as far away as possible, to avoid following and losing face. Invisibly, Xiaoqi also sped up. His horse, only wishing to avoid the inquisitive stares of the people as soon as possible. Su Qingyao was oblivious, enthusiastically telling Xiaoqi about the open-mindedness and sentiments of the people of the grasslands, saying their love was as free as the wind, and saying she would take him to see the grasslands in the future. Finally, they arrived at the gate of the Zhao prince's manor. Xiaoqi's face was as dark as a tile. The idle gossip on the road, making him feel utterly irritated. He dismounted, almost losing his grip on the reins. Su Qingyao was full of happiness, not noticing his displeasure at all. And unlike me, she was not frail. She just lifted her leg, leaping down and landing steadily, heroic and dashing. She didn't care about the crowds of commoners gathering around. She only wanted the world to know she was the woman the prince cherished, and even more so to make me retreat from the difficulty. Inside the Zhao prince's manor, I had changed out of my dust-stained dress after returning, putting on a more dignified and magnificent outfit. Not long after, concubine Su brought a long procession to find me. As an imperial concubine, being able to freely enter and leave the palace shows how much the emperor favored her. However, she still understood propriety, wearing a veil after leaving the palace, followed by lady officials at her side, and guards protecting her. With a great air of importance, entered the Zhao prince's manor. I was neither humble nor overbearing, offering a shallow bow to concubine Su. "Concubine, your arrival is a great honor. I have welcomed you poorly." Concubine Su was beautifully made up, full of charm, her waist slender like a willow, radiating the appeal of a mature woman. She was dressed in a dignified and majestic manner, her eyes lingering on me for a moment before she sat down, moving straight to the main seat. I didn't care, finding a seat close to her, ordering Hongxiu to serve tea to the concubine. Although concubine Su was of noble status, she could not easily throw her weight around before me. After all, the empress was my legitimate mother-in-law. She got straight to the point. "I am here today with an imperial decree from the emperor." I set down my teacup slowly, standing up to show my respect, saying with dignity and courtesy, "What does the father emperor decree?" "The prince is currently not in the manor. I will send someone to find him to return at once." Concubine Su naturally knew where Xiaoqi had gone. She had come for Su Qingyao, saying with a toss of her head, no need to hurry to find the prince. Before the words had finished, a guard came running in, breathing hard, reporting to the princess. The prince has returned. I stood firmly, the corners of my lips curving in a faint, beautiful smile, my face gentle, my demeanor calm, as if I were attentively listening to my elders' teachings. Xiaoqi walked into the main hall. Seeing Concubine Su sitting in the main seat, and glancing at me, he strode towards the main seat and sat down. Hongxiu quickly brought a cup of hot tea, which he drank in one gulp, setting the teacup down on the table heavily. With a sharp, metallic sound, no one in the hall dared to speak, everyone turning to look at him, not knowing what had happened. At this moment, Su Qingyao walked in looking displeased, saying, "He, what's wrong? Mouths grow on other people. Let them say what they want, I don't care." Seeing her wearing a red wedding dress, her face full of joy, Concubine Su's pupils widened, almost losing her composure, saying, "Qingyao, why are you wearing a red wedding dress? Aunt, why are you here? Did the emperor allow you to leave the palace?" Su Qingyao walked up to Concubine Su. Not only did she not bow, she took her arm instead, smiling sweetly, "Aunt, I have gotten married." And I bowed to heaven and earth. Concubine Su was struck by lightning, her beautiful face instantly losing all color. "The emperor's decree hasn't even arrived. What are you spouting? Without the emperor's blessing, how can a concubine wear a red wedding dress? If you don't believe me, ask He." Su Qingyao's peripheral vision caught sight of me, thinking I was beautiful and extraordinary, feeling even more bothered, though her face remained full of happiness. As a prince, Xiaoqi had no reason to bow to Concubine Su. She was at most an elder of Su Qingyao, a concubine of the emperor, and even though he didn't get along with the empress, he still had to give some face. Asking faintly, "I don't know what brings you out of the palace." "The emperor has already decreed for Qingyao to enter the manor as a concubine, but she has already secretly bowed to you." Concubine Su was at a loss for words. I opened my hopeful eyes and looked at Concubine Su, gently and with dignity, concurring. "Just now, you were mentioning this to me." Then the prince returned. "You said you brought the emperor's decree. What exactly is the order?" Xiaoqi furrowed his brow, knowing he had to receive the imperial decree, standing up respectfully, bowing, "Father Emperor, what is the order?" Concubine Su's expression became increasingly awkward. Just then, Steward Chen came running in to reporting to the prince. "There are many people gathered outside the manor gate, and no matter what, they won't leave." Xiaoqi felt a headache coming on, knowing why without asking. When he arrived at the front of the manor, he learned that the city was already filled with the story of the Earth God Temple, somebody marrying, and it was said in a very unpleasant way. Something like a wealthy young master taking a mistress, or an elopement with a neighborhood girl. The commoners heard that the people involved entered the Zhao prince's manor, all of them coming to watch the fun, wanting to investigate the truth. Steward Chen had no choice but to report the scene outside the gate one by one. After listening, I pretended to be shocked and opened my eyes wide, whispering, "So the prince and Miss Su got married at the Earth God Temple?" Having said that, I remained silent. Xiaoqi's face became increasingly ugly, saying coldly, "Go and deal with it in the city." The manager of the city also had a massive headache. The prince just married a princess the day before yesterday. Today, he brings a woman in a red wedding dress into the door, and secretly married in the temple. If this gets out, not only will the Zhao prince lose face, it will bring endless trouble if it reaches the emperor's ears. Su Qingyao saw that everyone's expression was poor, just about to say something, but was pulled aside by Concubine Su, signaling for her not to speak rashly. Such things that violate the law are Qingyao's fault to begin with. In Concubine Su's eyes, the Su Qingyao before me, compared to her, is a world apart. Seeing this, I spoke up, "Your Highness, why not let me go? With my status, perhaps I can persuade everyone to leave." The city official felt relieved, hurriedly adding, "The princess is the mistress of the manor. Minor things like taking a concubine should naturally be decided by the princess." The people outside are also confused. They only gossip because they don't know the truth. Now that the mistress of the house is here to clarify, it carries much more weight. Xiaoqi narrowed his eyes and stared at me. He saw that I was dressed appropriately, with a composed demeanor, and noble bearing in every gesture. My expression was dignified and graceful. In his mind, he suddenly conjured up what a princess of Zhao should look like, and it was exactly how I appeared. His anger subsided slightly, and his tone grew gentler. "Do you know what has happened? Can you give them a reasonable explanation?" Su Qingyao was caught with him, having bowed to each other at the Earth God Temple, and the rumor has spread like wildfire. If this matter is not handled properly, the consequences will be unimaginable. My eyes shone clear, and I said softly, "The prince and Miss Su are deeply in love, so whatever they do is understandable. I believe I know what to do." With that, I leaned on Hongxiu's arm and turned around. walking towards the manor gate with my back straight. Xiaoqi's gaze involuntarily fell upon my injured foot. I walked slowly, with light steps, gracefully, and swaying with charm. My entire being exuded a dignified and noble aura. As soon as I stood at the main gate of the prince's manor, my dignified and stunning appearance instantly silenced the noisy crowd. My sleeves fluttered in the wind, my eyes were cold and clear, carrying a sense of authority. A faint glow shimmered in my eyes, and the very air seemed to frost over. I frowned slightly, and spoke slowly. Why are you all gathered outside the Prince of Zhao's manor today? What is the reason? Do you have grievances to report? Who would dare to gossip about the prince's manor in person? Even if they were curious about whether the couple at the temple was the Prince of Zhao. The princess standing before them was so calm, and so dignified, that no one dared to ask rashly. The scene fell into silence once again. I waited for a moment, and seeing no response, I called for Steward Chen. Bring pen, ink, paper, and an inkstone. Anyone who has a matter to report should have it recorded in detail. Name, address, number of people in the household. Record everything in the register. I was using this pressure to intimidate the crowd. By recording details so thoroughly, anyone who had spoken nonsense or insulted anyone before, if there were any investigations later, would have nowhere to hide. No one is stupid, so naturally, they dared not be presumptuous anymore. Steward Chen immediately understood, bringing over a desk and preparing the writing materials. I pointed my slender finger towards an open space outside the gate. Place the desk there. There are so many people. It won't be finished in a moment. Steward Chen quickly echoed. This way, it won't block the entrance to the manor. The princess is truly thoughtful. I adjusted my posture, stood gracefully, and spoke loudly. I assume you have all heard that the prince has now been appointed as the prefect of Jinzhou, and you came here to investigate. Or perhaps you have cases to report. Since the prince has taken office, he will never be partial or show favoritism, but will definitely act with justice. If you have any grievances, you may voice them now, or bring written petitions later. I gave everyone a specific purpose, a reasonable excuse for them to be at the manor gate. I gave them a way out, and protected the dignity of the manor. Everyone had no desire to offend the royal family, and hearing my words, they abandoned the idea of watching a spectacle, leaving while whispering among themselves. So the current prefect of Jinzhou is Prince Zhao? The princess of Zhao is truly beautiful beyond compare. Stunningly gorgeous. The implication was clear. What the woman in red looked like earlier, nobody even remembered anymore. If the Prince of Zhao really ignored such a stunning and noble princess to go to a temple and commit such improper acts with another woman, he would have to be blind. Thinking about it, the couple at the temple could not have been the Prince of Zhao. The doubts in everyone's hearts gradually dissipated, and having no actual grievances to report, they dispersed. Seeing the crowd disperse, I said to Steward Chen, don't remove the desk yet. The prince is about to take his post at the Jinzhou office. Perhaps we can use this to build momentum for him. Steward Chen's eyes lit up, admiring the young and beautiful princess even more. I seemed to have said nothing just now, yet I had said everything that needed to be said. My husband now fully displayed the authority of a master. The princess was not just a pretty face, but also so skilled at planning for her husband. Xiaoqi had seen my performance just now, and he had to admit that although my methods carried a hint of coercive power, which might not have been the best, they were the most appropriate for the current situation, and my appearance as the princess carried much more weight. I returned to the main hall, and looked at Xiaoqi, with a trace of apology in my eyes, saying softly, Prince, I'm afraid your wedding with Miss Su cannot be held on a large scale. You are about to assume the post of prefect of Jinzhou. If this matter escalates, it would be detrimental to both you and the manor. It must be handled discreetly. If you were a young master of a common family, bowing at the temple outside the city would be fine. But your status is special, and the rules must be observed. Steward Chen immediately explained for me. Reporting to the prince, the princess had already ordered me to organize the guest list and prepare the betrothal gifts for the secondary wife. Even the wedding dress, I had ordered the best tailors to craft it. But now with this incident, it is inappropriate for the secondary wife to appear at this time. If you insist on holding the wedding, I'm afraid it must be postponed. Steward Chen had long received Xiaoqi's master orders, so naturally he followed his master's arrangement, and now he was just following my lead. Before Xiaoqi could speak, Su Qingyao suddenly stood before us, saying indifferently, it doesn't matter. He and I are already husband and wife. The implication was that even the entry ceremonies could be skipped, and there was no need to serve tea to me, the mistress. She turned to me again, pretending to be magnanimous. I should thank you for being so considerate of us, and I am really sorry. If not for the emperor's decree, Miss Lu wouldn't have to marry someone she doesn't like. My expression remained calm, my eyes clear, with no sign of jealousy. I didn't even show any affection when looking at Xiao Qi. I said softly, as long as you are well, that is enough. In that case, Steward Chen, please arrange for secondary wife Su to settle in. I had already endured that tea ceremony in my past life, and whether or not I had it in this life did not matter. The taste of it was hard to swallow anyway. I blinked at Xiao Qi, asking for his opinion. What does the prince think? Xiao Qi only felt he was being roasted over a fire. He had promised to marry Qingyao into the house with great fanfare. But now, because of a moment of impulse, he had ruined the wedding at the temple. And on the other hand, I had already prepared everything in the manner for their wedding. Looking at my calm and undisturbed face, a wave of guilt surged within him. His and Qingyao's affairs had ultimately implicated me, which was truly unfair to me. Since things have come to this, it must be this way. Concubine Su had been watching from the sidelines, and seeing me resolve the crisis so easily, she was shocked. She hadn't expected Lu Yingyan to have such means and city. If I really didn't fight or compete, Qingyao might still have a chance. But if I was just pretending to be magnanimous, then Qingyao's status in the Prince of Zhao's matter was in jeopardy. Concubine Su secretly marked me as her #1 opponent, keeping my image firmly in her mind. Having resolved the trouble outside the manor, Xiao Qi felt much more relaxed, and asked Concubine Su, I wonder what instructions the emperor has. The emperor has graciously approved for Qingyao to marry you as a secondary wife, and ordered me to attend the ceremony. Concubine Su was itching with resentment, but she had to smile and go along with my words. However, the Princess of Zhao is very thoughtful. Under current circumstances, the wedding should indeed not be grand. Su Qing, Yao was also dumbfounded, shocked. The emperor issued a decree? How could this be? Had I known the emperor would grant his permission, I wouldn't have run out of the city and ended up so disgraced, being pointed at by others. Xiao Qi furrowed his brow. The emperor's attitude yesterday had been so tough, yet now he had suddenly relented. He clenched his fingers, his heart full of frustration. Just then, the voice of an imperial eunuch came from outside. The decree was from the empress, delivered by the emperor's own chief eunuch Chao. An empress's decree being delivered by the emperor's man. The intention was self-evident. The emperor already knew what had happened outside the palace. Behind chief eunuch Chao, there were 2 etiquette instructors from the palace. Xiao Qi led everyone to kneel to receive the decree. Chief eunuch Chao announced loudly, secondary wife Su is lacking in upbringing, and conduct is uncouth. I specially order these 2 instructors to stay in the Prince of Zhao's manor with Nanny Wang, to teach secondary wife Su proper etiquette. I will check on her progress regularly. Su Qingyao knew the empress didn't like her, and subconsciously looked at Concubine Su. But Concubine Su saw it was Chief Eunuch Chao, and was already so panicked. She had no heart to care about her. Secondary wife, why don't you accept the decree? Chief Eunuch Chao's voice was thin, scaring Su Qingyao until her heart trembled. I, your subject, accept the decree. Su Qingyao replied trembling. Chief Eunuch Chao shook his head, reminding her, even as a secondary wife, one should refer to oneself as a servant. It seems Nanny Wang, Steward Li, and Steward Zhang still have much work to do in teaching her. They quickly nodded in agreement. Chief Eunuch Chao then announced loudly, by the emperor's oral order, Concubine Su is to return to the palace immediately. Concubine Su respectfully replied, I, your subject, accept the order. With such a careless and boisterous nature, Qingyao really needed to learn the rules. Otherwise she would never survive in the capital. With that, Concubine Su turned and left without looking back. She had come as an aunt to give Su Qingyao a celebratory drink, not expecting such a bad outcome. The emperor had only just decreed that Su Qingyao become a secondary wife to the Prince of Zhao, and immediately sent people to discipline her. Clearly, the events at the 10-mile pavilion and the Earth God Temple had already reached the empress's ears, who reported it to the palace. I did not know, because I had not done such a thing. I am the Princess of Zhao, after all, and from beginning to end, I must uphold the prince's reputation. Protecting the prince's reputation is to protect my own. I understood this very clearly. After Concubine Su and Chief Eunuch Chao left, the Prince of Zhao's matter finally became quiet. I turned around and returned to Lanyue Pavilion, while Su Qingyao was arranged in the western courtyard. The Tanxiang court. What I didn't expect was that Xiao Qi would inexplicably chase after me, asking, is your foot feeling better? I was surprised. I didn't expect him to follow me to Lanyue Pavilion. After all, Su Qingyao had already entered the manor. I had thought in this life, Xiao Qi would not marry Su Qingyao into the house so quickly. But unexpectedly, it seems I still couldn't escape the fate of my past life.